Zhang Hao and the others were overjoyed, thinking that Yang Kai had acquiesced. Their movements immediately became more rapid, but just as the three passed through the void crack, Yang Kai suddenly clenched his hand. Immediately, the wide-open void crack closed up as quickly as a flash of lightning. Caught by surprise, the bodies of the two unknown cultivators were severed in half, their blood and internal organs spilling out of their bodies as their auras rapidly disappeared. The entire picture was too ghastly to even look at. On the other hand, Zhang Hao reacted the quickest and withdrew at the critical moment, escaping from this lethal blow. After regaining his footing, Zhang Hao took a sidelong glance with a lingering fear. Only then did he turn back to Yang Kai and say, You really want to kill us?" Yang Kai calmly glanced at him before stating, "No one who has ever provoked this young master has had a good end. Don't be too arrogant. I, Zhang Hao, am a holy son of Brahma Holy Land. Don't think that I'm afraid of you." Zhang Hao roared, putting up a brave front. Yang Kai indifferently looked at him. "Are you done?" Zhang Hao was startled as he asked in shock, "What are you going to do?" "Since you're done, then you can be on your way." Saying so, Yang Kai waved his hand and the surrounding void turbulence started surging towards Zhang Hao, trying to envelop him. In an instant, he was completely surrounded and unable to move. Zhang Hao's expression drastically changed as he desperately circulated his source qi to struggle free, but he couldn't get rid of the strange currents. On the contrary, the more he struggled, the deeper he fell. Suddenly, his face paled as he looked at Yang Kai and begged in a trembling voice, "Let me go. I'm willing to pay any price. I'll even hand you my soul brand." Handing his soul brand over meant he would be at Yang Kai's beck and call in the future. He would become Yang Kai's slave. If he was putting forward this condition as the holy son of Brahma Holy Land, it was quite evident how pressured he was. But at this critical moment of life and death, Zhang Hao just wanted to survive, so how could he care about other things? "Your strength is too low. What's the use of keeping you?" Yang Kai slightly lifted his hand, causing the local space principles to fluctuate. Suddenly, countless tiny void cracks appeared around Zhang Hao. They were densely packed and too numerous to count. "Strength is too low." Zhang Hao looked dumbfounded. It was the greatest insult of his life. Yang Kai, too, was a third-order Dao Source Realm cultivator, their cultivations the same, yet he was disdained as too weak to matter. Having become angry out of shame, Zhang Hao hysterically shouted, "I'll fight it out with you." Saying so, his face flushed red as his source qi chaotically started circulating, and an extremely dangerous aura immediately emanated from him. Yang Kai's expression sank at the sight of this. He coldly snorted and declared, "You want to self-destruct? Not a chance." Shio. One after another, the countless tiny void cracks flew towards Zhang Hao as if they had been bestowed with life. After the dense and continuous slicing sounds, Zhang Hao froze in place. There was a dull look on his face as his vitality rapidly dissipated. Also, the dangerous aura which had been emanating from him died down. After a short while, Zhang Hao's entire figure fell into countless pieces with a soft bang, scattering about the void before being swallowed up by the surging turbulence. As Xianxia had asked before, Zhang Hao was really torn into 10,000 pieces. A six-pointed star seal flew out from where he once stood and rushed straight into the back of Yang Kai's hand. The next moment, it turned into specks of starlight as it was absorbed by the seven-pointed star seal. After Zhang Hao was killed, Yang Kai finally breathed out in relief. His depressed mood was slightly lifted. He stood in his spot as a deep furrow appeared on his forehead, thinking about the information Yin Lishang had given to him. Xiao actually went to that place. The notion had never even crossed his mind. However, there were pros and cons of going there. Yang Kai was always worried that Xiao would be chased and attacked by other cultivators. But if he went there, that worry became irrelevant as it was rare for cultivators to set foot into that place. However, that place was fraught with dangers, so it was uncertain if Xiao was still safe. "It seems I still have to make a trip to the Eastern Territory." Yang Kai secretly decided that after he was done with the affairs of the Shattered Star Sea, he would set out to search for Xiao. After having made up his mind, Yang Kai adjusted his mood and turned his head, blazingly looking at the mountains and rivers bell. When the mountains and rivers bell had first appeared, several dozen cultivators were eyeing it and had eventually chased it to this place. But now there is only one left, leaving Yang Kai with ample time to refine the mountains and rivers bell. Qi Hai said that the mountains and rivers bell was an ancient exotic artifact, which was brought out by the Yuanding Great Emperor from the ancient wildlands. If Yang Kai could refine it, this trip to the Shattered Star Sea would have been worthwhile. However, refining such an artifact wasn't as simple as it looked. Yang Kai didn't even know how to refine it, so he could only try the method mentioned by Qi Hai. The Yuanding Great Emperor had survived 81 Nels from this bell in order to gain the artifact spirit's approval, allowing him to bring it out from the ancient wildlands. Yang Kai had no choice but to imitate him. Considering this, Yang Kai took a deep breath, then adjusted his state to his best before walking towards the mountains and rivers bell step by step. For some unknown reason, the mountains and rivers bell's radiance was restrained, and even the dense and mysterious runes which once flowed across its surface were no longer visible. It looked no different from an ordinary broken bell now, to the point that if one threw it into the crowd, no one would even bother to take a glance at it. But it still gave Yang Kai the feeling of a sleeping dragon that would let out a heaven-shaking roar once it was disturbed. After a short while, Yang Kai came to the front of the mountains and rivers bell. To his surprise, the mountains and rivers bell didn't show any movement. Holding his breath and focusing his entire attention, Yang Kai carefully reached out and stroked the mountains and rivers bell. The moment Yang Kai's palm came into contact with the mountains and rivers bell, though, it shook as a heaven-shaking and earth-shattering toll rang in Yang Kai's mind. This ring was filled with an ancient and desolate aura that made Yang Kai dizzy in a flash. He felt as if he had been brought to a savage prehistory era by the torrent of time. In his mind, inexplicable scenes appeared one after another. In those images, there were scenes of the heavens and earth collapsing, astral winds whipping about, and tsunamis sweeping over the seas. It was as if the end of the world had come. There were strong and burly naked giants so tall that their heads reached the sky. They proudly walked the land, and wherever they went, every living being would retreat. There were early cultivators who could move the mountains and shift the seas. They could fly through the sky and move through the earth. They used their powerful divine abilities to fight against the surrounding disasters as they sought for a slim chance of survival. Countless ancient divine spirits fought with each other, seizing others' territories, dyeing the ground red. When they fought, the worlds shattered, and universes were flipped upside down. The world was changing all the time, and in a flash it seemed like millions of years had passed. Yang Kai let out a grunt as he felt as if he was struck by a mountain. Spurting a mouthful of blood, he was sent flying back over 10,000 meters through the void before he regained his footing. His face was pale as a ghost and his aura was in turmoil. After finally stabilizing himself, Yang Kai finally sat down cross-legged and silently healed his wounds. The pain in his head was simply unbearable. Clearly his soul had suffered injuries. Had it been someone else, they would have been unable to recover from such injuries. All they could do was wait for their soul to dry up and for death to take them. Even for Yang Kai, who had the soul-warming lotus, recovering from these injuries wasn't an easy task. Not only this, Yang Kai also noticed that a strange energy had seeped into his body following the shockwave from the mountains and rivers bell. This energy was vague and mysterious, but it didn't seem to do him any harm. It was just that it gave him a strange, obscure feeling. It took Yang Kai 10 days to finally recover from the injuries to his soul and for him to refine the wisp of strange energy. Somehow he seemed to have gained something, but it was extremely vague. He couldn't put his fingers on it. After opening his eyes, Yang Kai pondered for a moment before he got up and walked towards the mountains and rivers bell. After a short while, Yang Kai was sent flying by the mountains and rivers bell just like the last time. He kept spurting blood, losing half of his life right away. After standing up from being knocked down, he hurriedly healed himself. Over the following days, Yang Kai kept repeating this process. Getting knocked down, healing, and then continuing trying to refine and subdue the mountains and rivers bell. What was most fortunate for him was that he had a strong physique and soul, and also possessed a supreme treasure like the 7-colored soul-warming lotus. If Xianxia had been short of any one of these, he wouldn't have been able to carry on with this process. Even if he wasn't shaken to death, it might have left a hidden sequela. But his strong physique and soul, and the soul-warming lotus, were enough to completely restore him each time. And with the passage of time, the time it took to recover became shorter and shorter, while the injuries he suffered gradually became lighter and lighter. As that wisp of strange energy kept accumulating, Xianxia gradually realized what it was. 2 months later, Xianxia was finally able to withstand a blow from the mountains and rivers bell unharmed, but he was sent flying from the next toll. After 3 months, he was able to withstand 5 consecutive shockwaves. After 6 months, 20 times. After 1 year, 60 times. His progress was amazing. One day, after a year and a half, Xianxia was filled with an aura of vicissitudes. His clothes were tattered and his hair unkempt. What little scraps he was wearing were covered in dark, dried-up blood. He was an extremely sorry sight, but his aura was stronger and deeper than before. Xianxia closed his eyes and put both his hands on the mountains and rivers bell. At this moment, the ancient exotic artifact had once again regained the same appearance that Xianxia had witnessed. Its entire body was brightly shining and countless profound runes were swimming across its surface like fish, shuttling back and forth, emanating a rich and ancient aura. One after another, reverberating knells rang in Xianxia's mind. Every ring was enough for a cultivator at the peak Dao source realm to retreat, coughing blood. But Xianxia was quite content even in adversity. Not only did he not feel any pain, but he also found it rewarding. Hong hong hong. 10 rings, 20 rings, 30 rings. Xianxia didn't move. 50 rings, 60 rings, 70 rings. His expression finally became solemn. But the situation was still under his control. It wasn't until the 70th ring that his knowledge sea began to churn, causing his face to pale. His blood and qi began to riot, as if he couldn't carry on anymore. But Xianxia still didn't move as he endured the violent shocks of the mountains and rivers bell. It wasn't until the 80th ring that Xianxia suddenly let out a groan as blood trickled down from the corner of his mouth. The next moment, his figure slightly shook. He was almost sent flying. At this last juncture, Xianxia braced himself and managed to remain in place. Hong! The 81st ring came as scheduled, and the subsequent violent impact almost tore him into pieces. The corresponding pain reached the depths of his soul, making him cry like a wounded beast. Blood gushed from his 7 orifices, turning his entire face into an appalling sight. Fierce, wild energy ran amok through his body as sounds of bones cracking continuously rang out. Xianxia felt like he was about to die, and the aura of death made his entire body grow cold while his limbs went numb. He loudly shouted as he pushed his source qi madly, desperate to endure. A single breath felt like hundreds of thousands of years to Xianxia, but when the aftermath of the shock disappeared, Xianxia's eyes bloomed with a brilliant gleam. He had done it. After a year and a half, he finally withstood 81 tolls from the mountains and rivers bell without withdrawing. He might have looked a little miserable, but he still managed to endure. If Qihai's statement was true, then all his hard work and tenacity would be recognized by the mountains and rivers bell's artifact spirit, and he would become the new owner of the mountains and rivers bell. Thinking so, Xianxia raised his head and stared at the mountains and rivers bell with high expectations. But what entered his sight dumbfounded him, because the surface of the mountains and rivers bell lit up again, turning Xianxia's face pale with shock. He had witnessed this situation countless times over this year and a half. Every time the surface of the mountains and rivers bell shined, it meant that it was about to toll. Again? Xianxia was suddenly struck with a sense of despair and powerlessness. With his current strength, it took everything he had and more to reach the 81st ring. That was already the limit of his limits. If he took another, he would be unable to hold on and might very well lose his life. The very first thought that crossed his mind was to pull back and save his life first. Whether the method mentioned by Qihai was invalid or it was recorded wrongly in the ancient books, Xianxia had already tried his best. He had no regrets even if he failed. Then again, A sliver of unwillingness rose from his heart. He had already worked so hard, and if he gave up now, wouldn't all his previous efforts have been for naught? Suddenly, a gush of hot blood flooded his chest as Xianxia let out a war cry. Instead of backing away, he stood firm and pushed his source chi madly towards the mountains and rivers bell. But what happened next took him by surprise. His source chi smoothly poured into the mountains and rivers bell, something that had never happened before. Over the past year and a half, Xianxia has tried this every once in a while, but each time the result was that his source chi was bounced back, making him suffer even more damage instead. But this time, his source chi was accepted by the mountains and rivers bell. Xianxia was momentarily stunned, but immediately after, he turned ecstatic. The next moment, a shock wave from the depths of his heart and soul blasted out and everything went black before his eyes as his mind went blank and he passed out. The mountains and rivers bell, on the other hand, continued shining brightly, streaks of brilliance shooting out from the bell's surface and shrouding Xianxia, wrapping him up tightly. A desolate aura permeated into the void as all this occurred, but as time passed by, this phenomenon gradually disappeared. The mountains and rivers bell also slowly shrank, reducing to the size of just a palm before falling beside Xianxia. After some unknown amount of time, Xianxia slowly opened his eyes. From head to toe, there was no part on his body that was not in pain. Even just a flash of thought brought a world of pain to his head and caused him to groan. He clearly remembered what had transpired before he fell into a coma, so the very moment he woke, he wanted to check the situation of the mountains and rivers bell. He wanted to know whether he had succeeded in subduing this ancient exotic treasure or not. But when he looked up, the towering mountains and rivers bell that should have been right there was nowhere to be found. Xianxia had no idea where the ancient exotic artifact had gone. Xianxia's expression darkened, thinking that the mountains and rivers bell had broken through the void and disappeared. He was immediately struck with a sense of loss. He had worked long and hard in the chaotic void to get the mountains and rivers bell, but in the end he gained nothing. No one could easily accept this. But soon, Xianxia noticed that something was wrong, because he felt something contacting him through a strange mental connection, making him involuntarily look to one side. There, a small, plain, and unremarkable bell the size of a palm was quietly floating beside him. Mountains and rivers bell. Xianxia's eyes lit up. The ancient exotic artifact might have shrunk countless times, but Xianxia recognized it at a glance. Pleasantly surprised, he stretched his hand out and the mountains and rivers bell flew up to his palm. The moment Xianxia's hand touched the bell, the vague communication he had been feeling all of a sudden became clear. Xianxia wore an indifferent expression for a moment, but his stoic face soon curled into a grin. Chi had told him the correct method. As long as he could withstand 81 tolls from this ancient exotic artifact, he would gain its recognition and become its owner. In the past, the Yuanding Great Emperor had succeeded in subduing it, and now so had Xianxia. However, the Yuanding Great Emperor subdued it when he was a third-order emperor, after which he was able to spy on a higher martial Dao, helping him advance to the Great Emperor realm. Xianxia, on the other hand, was still just a third-order Dao Source Realm Junior, incomparable to the Yuanding Great Emperor in Cultivation, so it took him a year and a half to succeed. Although it took him a long time, Xianxia was filled with an unprecedented sense of satisfaction. He put the mountains and rivers bell on his palm and played with it a bit. After confirming that he had indeed subdued it, he finally put it away, extremely pleased with himself. But much to Xianxia's surprise, he couldn't withdraw this bell into his body. Xianxia grew suspicious as he tried to circulate source chi to refine the bell, but strangely he couldn't. In other words, although the mountains and rivers bell was owned by him now, and he could control its might, he couldn't refine it and neither could he withdraw it into his body. Is this a characteristic of ancient exotic artifacts? After all, such artifacts are born from the world itself, not artificially refined. It's reasonable to say that it is a little different from the artifacts used today. However, Xianxia didn't think too deeply about this. Right now, he was still heavily injured, so it wasn't the right time to study the mountains and rivers bell. He could slowly familiarize himself with it in the future. After putting away the mountains and rivers bell, Yang Kai finally began to tend his wounds. After 5 days, he returned to peak condition. Compared to a year and a half ago, Yang Kai's aura was deeper and more profound. In the process of conquering the mountains and rivers Bell, he wasn't without growth. Instead, every time he withstood the shock of the mountains and rivers Bell, his spiritual energy became stronger. Not only this, but he had also obtained some nourishment from the wild force that emanated from the mountains and rivers Bell. This was a truly ancient force that could make all living beings surrender to it, a complex and mysterious energy. It was hard to imagine just how strong the Yuanding Great Emperor, who was the owner of the mountains and rivers Bell, was back in his time. But even such a powerful figure was still no match for heaven-devouring Great Emperor. During the Battle of Emperors, a total of 4 great emperors were killed by the heaven-devouring Great Emperor. Throughout the ages, he deserved the title of strongest in the Star Boundaries history. This reminded Yang Kai of the One-Eyed Great Demon. The One-Eyed Great Demon was also a powerhouse from ancient times, one filled with murderous rage. Countless ancient masters besieged it, but even then, it had killed countless enemies before finally being killed. Still, even after it died, its giant eye could not be destroyed and, ultimately, it was sealed below Maplewood City by the surviving ancient masters. Whether it was the One-Eyed Great Demon or the heaven-devouring Great Emperor, both were cruel characters. They regarded all living beings as grass, and the lives of others meant nothing to them. Such wanton slaughter, however, contradicted the heavenly way, which eventually brought catastrophe down upon them. Suddenly, a flash of enlightenment struck Yang Kai's mind, and his future path seemed much clearer to him. The next moment, some mysterious changes started happening to the source qi in his body. Emperor Qi transformation. Yang Kai was gleeful as he realized that he had taken another big step towards the Emperor realm. From the Tao Source realm to the Emperor realm, the energy in one's body would undergo an earth-shaking transformation. Tao Source realm cultivators cultivated Source Qi, while Emperors cultivated Emperor Qi. There was a huge gap in quality between these two Qis. Generally speaking, before a cultivator broke through to the Emperor realm, the Source Qi in their body had to transform into Emperor Qi, just like when one advanced from the Origin King realm to the Tao Source realm. This transformation was a long process. But unlike the Tao Source realm, where one could take source condensing pills to speed up this transformation process, there was no shortcut to Emperor Qi transformation. Only pure cultivation and accumulation over time could reliably complete this process. Qiu Zhe of Sky Illumination Palace, the Emperor Realm Master that Yang Kai had previously killed, had just advanced to the Emperor Realm and his realm hadn't been consolidated, so his Emperor Qi was still relatively chaotic and unfamiliar to him, making it impossible for him to bring out his full strength. This was a major reason why Yang Kai was able to kill him so easily. Had it been someone like Gao Xueting, Yang Kai might not have been able to defeat him with his strength at that time. Gao Xueting had broken through to the Emperor realm many years ago, and her Emperor Qi was rich and pure, incomparable to Qiu Zhe's. And now, the source Qi in Yang Kai's body was converting to Emperor Qi, which was the most obvious sign of someone on the verge of breaking through to the Emperor realm. Perhaps it was a matter of opportunity, or perhaps it was just a matter of time for him to finally get a glimpse of the mysteries of the Emperor realm. After subduing the mountains and rivers Bell, hitting the threshold of the Emperor realm, and collecting so much source strength, along with obtaining a supreme treasure like the Phoenix True Fire, Yang Kai realized that this trip to the Shattered Star Sea was more than worthwhile. He didn't know how others had fared, but it was really a worthwhile trip for him. For a while, he was very happy and relaxed. He then turned and looked around before he reached out and tore open space to leave the void after a year and a half. What entered his sight was still the dilapidated, cold, and depressing Shattered Star Sea. But this place was no longer the same place that he was at when he entered the void. Yang Kai had no idea where he was in the Shattered Star Sea. There was no one in sight, but the 7-pointed star seal on the back of his hand could vaguely sense some energy fluctuations coming from the distance. Yang Kai pondered for a moment before his figure flew towards the source of the energy fluctuations. Since someone was there, it meant that there should be something of value too. Yang Kai wasn't interested in snatching other people's treasures, but he did need information, so these people would be his best choice. About 2 hours later, Yang Kai arrived a short distance from a shattered cultivation star. The star seal fluctuations were coming from this star. Before Yang Kai could approach the star, a wave of Emperor aura suddenly spread out from it. Yang Kai's eyes bulged as he cried in surprise. Another Emperor artifact? Before the mountains and rivers bell appeared, he had sensed similar energy fluctuations. Now, he had just subdued the mountains and rivers bell, and he had encountered a similar situation again, making him feel that there were indeed many treasures in the shattered star sea. But soon, Yang Kai realized that something was different. The Emperor aura fluctuations didn't have a trace of the appearance of an Emperor artifact, because the situation at the star was completely different from the situation when the mountains and rivers bell appeared. Not only that, lightning and thunder could be seen and heard, while a terrifying world energy seemed to be gathering towards the star, highlighting the awe-inspiring heavenly way. A breakthrough! Yang Kai's pupil shrank upon realizing that someone was about to break through to the Emperor realm. He was stupidly gawking at the heavenly manifestation on the star that had just begun to take shape, and his blood immediately started to boil. Although he had long known that the cultivators could break their shackles and advance to the Emperor realm in the shattered star sea, it had only been 2 to 3 years since they entered, so Yang Kai hadn't seen anyone achieve this yet. At this moment, someone who was about to accomplish this feat was not too far away from him. The Emperor realm was the summit of the star boundaries martial Tao, the ultimate pursuit of all cultivators. This realm was the symbol of great strength and extremely high status. So, even though he had no idea who the person breaking through was, Yang Kai was still a little excited after seeing the heavenly manifestation. Perhaps, if he could secretly observe this situation, he might be able to see the birth of an emperor. Yang Kai only wished to view from a distance, not cause trouble, so he didn't have any psychological burden. Considering all this, he no longer hesitated. His figure jolted as he flew towards the source of the movement. Not long after, he arrived at a shattered star. Just as he came to a stop, before he could even approach the star, 3 figures suddenly appeared and surrounded him. The 3 figures had been concealed very well, and because all of Yang Kai's attention was focused on the heavenly manifestation, he didn't notice them at first, only regaining his wits when they had rushed out. The moment these 3 appeared, they all resorted to lethal attacks, showing no mercy. Amid the flashes of swords, an icy domain immediately spread about, freezing the surrounding space in an instant. Yang Kai couldn't help but shudder as a cold gleam immediately flashed past his eyes. Raising his hands, he counterattacked, filling the sky with palms. Hong hong hong. After their fierce clash, Yang Kai remained still, while the 3 sneak attackers all cried in shock and were thrown back. Form rank. One of them seemed to have realized Yang Kai's strength, and fear and shock filled her eyes as she promptly shouted. Obviously, the other 2 belonged to the same sect and had cooperated countless times. The moment they heard this, they flew to her side and began activating some kind of secret technique, merging their 3 auras into one. Until now, Yang Kai hadn't had the time to take a good look at his 3 would-be attackers. But once he did, he hurriedly raised his hand and spoke. Wait! The battle-ready trio coldly glared at Yang Kai, not showing any intention of speaking or backing down, instead pushing their icy sword auras even harder. Are you from Ice Heart Valley? Yang Kai shouted again. He had snuck into Ice Heart Valley before, so he was quite familiar with the uniforms its disciples wore. The 3 girls before him were clearly wearing the robes of Ice Heart Valley. He hadn't expected to suddenly be attacked by Ice Heart Valley disciples. I'm afraid there is some misunderstanding here. Yang Kai's thinking immediately changed. These 3 must be guarding the one breaking through, and my arrival must have put them on alert, which was why they attacked me without any explanation. Yang Kai's question didn't make them halt their movements. Seeing the 3 still preparing to attack, Yang Kai couldn't help but be taken aback by that surging energy fluctuations. He had no choice but to report his name. My name is Yang Kai. I wonder if you have heard of me. As soon as he said this, it really had an effect. The 3 girls immediately stopped whatever secret technique they were casting and looked at Yang Kai in amazement, their icy domain slowly dissipating. The young woman seemingly leading the trio asked in astonishment, Are you really senior brother Yang Kai? Indeed. Yang Kai heaved a sigh of relief, knowing that the three had heard of him. This wasn't a surprise though after all the events in Ice Moon City. He does look a bit like him. Both his profile and figure are similar to the image shown by eldest senior sister. But he's too dirty. I can't even see his face. His clothes are also in tatters. The three girls gathered around and whispered for a while, constantly glancing at Yang Kai, seemingly trying to confirm his identity. Although the three were whispering to one another, Yang Kai heard them loud and clear, and he couldn't help but smack his head in embarrassment. He had been in the void for a year and a half, during which time he had been trying to subdue the mountains and rivers Bell. As a result, he was injured again and again, resulting in his figure looking quite disheveled. After he had subdued the mountains and rivers Bell, he had been so excited that he totally forgot how ragged and filthy he was. Had it not been for the Ice Heart Valley disciples' reminder, he might not have realized at all. Realizing this, Yang Kai pushed his source chi, shaking off all the scabs on his body, while at the same time, he stretched his hand out and condensed some water sword chi from his 5 elements indestructible sword chi to create a ball of water. Scrubbing his face a few times, he raised his head and said with a bright, friendly smile, "Please take a closer look. Ah, it is senior brother Yang. That's right. It's senior brother Yang." After confirming that it was Yang Kai without a doubt, the three young women immediately cheered and relaxed their stances before approaching Yang Kai with an apologetic look on their faces. The leading disciple embarrassingly cupped her fists and apologized. "Senior brother Yang, please don't blame us. We sisters thought that you were an enemy chasing us, so we immediately attacked you. I hope senior brother Yang can be magnanimous and not haggle over our indiscretion." "It's all right." Yang Kai waved his hand before asking, "Is someone chasing you?" The girl replied with a nod. "And he has been chasing us for many days." "Who?" The young woman's face sank as she ground her teeth in anger. Who else could it be other than Seeking Passion Sect's young sect master? Feng Shi. Yang Kai raised his brow before asking in surprise. "Feng Shi's strength might be good, but yours aren't bad either. Why are you afraid of him?" The young woman sighed as she replied, "If it was in the past, I would naturally not be too scared of him. But a few days ago, eldest senior sister's energy became unsteady. Obviously, she was on the verge of breaking through. So we didn't dare to rashly confront Feng Shi, lest eldest senior sister miss this opportunity." Eldest senior sister. Yang Kai's eyes lit up and he glanced at the location where the heavenly manifestation was converging before asking, pleasantly surprised, "So to say, it's Sister Ziyu who is breaking through to the Emperor Realm?" And when we ran here, eldest senior sister could no longer suppress her breakthrough and had no choice but to begin. We three sisters are responsible for guarding her. When senior brother Yang arrived, we thought that you were a Seeking Passion sect disciple. So When she spoke about the last part, her face flushed red. After all, they had indeed acted a little rashly when they attacked Yang Kai without any explanation. Yang Kai smiled lightly and stated, "Sister Ziyu is a true genius. My congratulations." He didn't expect that the person who was breaking through to the Emperor Realm here would be Ice Heart Valley's Ziyu. He had some dealings with Ziyu before, and although he wasn't well acquainted with her, Yang Kai knew that she was the most outstanding disciple of Ice Heart Valley, and today she had really lived up to everyone's expectations. Just 2.5 years after entering the Shattered Star Sea, she had seized an opportunity to break through. The lead Ice Heart Valley disciple stated, "Eldest senior sister said that senior brother Yang is the greatest genius she has ever seen, and she rarely praises anyone. She didn't even attach any importance to Feng Shi of the Seeking Passion sect. But she deeply respects senior brother Yang. Therefore, after we met in the Shattered Star Sea, she especially showed us your image, telling us to treat you with courtesy if we meet you. Yes, we have all heard of what senior brother Yang did in Ice Moon City. Senior brother Yang is really amazing." Yang Kai responded with a chuckle. "Sister Ziyu is not worse than anyone. She just said that to give me a face. Can't you see that I am still wandering about in the Tao Source Realm, while she is now breaking through to the Emperor Realm?" After hearing his words, The three Ice Heart Valley disciples finally remembered that Xianxia was a third-order Dao Source Realm cultivator, while their eldest senior sister was already breaking through to the Emperor Realm. Regardless of whether Ziyu succeeded or not, she was a step ahead of Xianxia in this regard at least, so in the eyes of the trio, their eldest senior sister was indeed no worse than Xianxia, maybe even better. Xianxia's face turned serious as he warned, "Breaking through to the Emperor Realm is fraught with crises. Countless geniuses have fallen at this juncture. Ziyu has rushed to make a breakthrough. How confident is she in succeeding?" One of the Ice Heart Valley disciples replied. Eldest senior sister said that she is only about 60% sure. The other two also looked worried. 60%? Xianxia furrowed his brow. This wasn't a particular high estimate. If Ziyu failed in her breakthrough, it would not be surprising for her to die under the world energy baptism. Moreover, those seeking passion sect disciples are still chasing us, and we don't know if they will find this place or not. Xianxia assured them, "Don't worry, since I'm here, then I will remain here with you. If anyone from seeking passion sect really comes, then I'll ensure none of them leave." While speaking, Xianxia's face was laced with murderous intent. He still had some old accounts to settle with Fengxi. Fengxi's Emperor Authority bead had caused him a lot of pain that day, and if not for his timely retreat and extraordinary strength, Xianxia might have died then and there. Emperor Authority beads had always been rare, so even if Fengxi was the seeking passion sect's young sect master, it was next to impossible for him to have a second one. Right now, Fengxi was nothing but a stray dog, so Xianxia basically didn't put any importance on him. Before entering the Shattered Star Sea, he could easily crush a cultivator in the same realm and could be considered invincible in the Dao Source realm. In the Shattered Star Sea, Xianxia had comprehended the flowing time Great Emperor's divine ability and subdued the mountains and rivers' bell. Additionally, his spiritual energy and source qi had grown noticeably. Xianxia believed that if he were to now face Fengxi's Emperor Authority bead, he would not be in as precarious a situation as he was before. "Senior brother Yang, you must not be careless. Fengxi is no longer what he used to be." Seeing Xianxia not caring one bit about Fengxi, the Ice Heart Valley disciples quickly warned him, but she could finish her words. Xianxia suddenly raised his head, gazing towards the depth of the void in a certain direction before shouting, "They are coming! They're coming!" The three Ice Heart Valley disciples were stunned after hearing this and immediately looked in the direction Xianxia was looking. But even if they spread their divine senses, they couldn't detect anyone. Xianxia explained with a smile, "My star seal is 7-pointed, so the distance I can sense them approaching from is much farther than yours." Fengxi also has the 7-pointed star seal. One of the Ice Heart Valley disciples' pretty faces turned pale. "Since senior brother Yang can sense them, Fengxi can definitely sense us too. How many are they?" Xianxia replied, "I sense 2, so there should be 3. If Fengxi had a 7-pointed star seal, Xianxia would naturally be unable to sense his existence. However, what made him puzzled was that Fengxi had a 7-pointed star seal. How did he achieve that? Xianxia had only obtained a 7-pointed star seal after collecting several dozen star seals left by the dead cultivators in the void. How could Fengxi kill several dozen people all on his own? Although he was quite strong, his strength wasn't that exaggerated, right? All the cultivators in the Shattered Star Sea weren't good to provoke. While he was feeling uncertain, Xianxia's divine sense had already caught 3 auras that were approaching rather quickly, and he found one of them to be quite familiar. It was none other than Fengxi. The next moment, Xianxia's eyes bulged as he muttered in shock. When did Fengxi advance to the Emperor realm? He had clearly noticed a distinct Emperor aura lingering around Fengxi, and although this aura was unstable, there was no doubt that Fengxi had already reached the Emperor realm. This discovery shocked Xianxia more than when he learned that it was Ziyu who was making the breakthrough here. He had only spent a year and a half in the void, yet so many things had happened outside. First, Ziyu was on the verge of a breakthrough, and now Fengxi had already been broken through to the Emperor realm. What about geniuses of the other sects? Were they also advancing at a similar pace? It's all because Fengxi reached the Emperor realm that we sisters aren't his opponent anymore and could only flee. Fortunately, His realm hasn't been consolidated yet. Otherwise, we wouldn't have even been able to escape. An Ice Heart Valley disciple added with a wry smile. Yang Kai quickly regained his calm and finally understood why this young woman had said that Feng-Shi was no longer what he used to be. Although there was only a difference of one step between the third-order Dao Source realm and first-order Emperor realm, the gap in strength was worlds apart. Senior Brother Yang, you'd best flee, the Ice Heart Valley disciples anxiously stated. Feng-Shi has enmity towards you. If he sees you, he won't let you go. What would you do if I leave? Yang Kai glanced at her. The lead young woman replied, Feng-Shi has been chasing us all this time, not because he wants to kill us, but because he wants to force eldest senior sister to submit, so we don't actually have to worry about our lives. Yang Kai added, even if Feng-Shi has no intention of killing you, do you think he will just sit back and watch while Ziyu breaks through? The Seeking Passion sect cultivated the Tao of Passion, so in order to truly make Ziyu his Feng-Shi had to possess absolute strength to suppress her. As such, there was no way Feng-Shi would allow Ziyu to succeed in her breakthrough. He would definitely interfere because once Ziyu advanced, his advantage would disappear. But at this critical juncture, how could they let anyone interfere with Ziyu? If Feng-Shi properly controlled his strength, it should still be possible for him to make Ziyu fail without killing her. But if he didn't, Ziyu might very well die under the world energy baptism. No matter what the result was, it wouldn't be acceptable to Ziyu. The three Ice Heart Valley disciples had obviously thought of this, so despite asking Yang Kai to leave, all three of them looked incredibly anxious and worried. Perhaps, we can replace eldest senior sister and make Feng-Shi give up? One of them agonizingly suggested. The other two turned pale, but they remained silent. Yang Kai shook his head slowly. It's not that I am disdaining you, nor is it that you aren't beautiful, but think about how many wives and concubines Feng-Shi has and what kind of beauties he hasn't seen. Since he has taken a liking to Ziyu, naturally he won't easily give up. It could be said that Sister Ziyu's existence is a kind of heart demon to him already, one he needs to overcome in order to continue his martial Tao. The three of you can't replace Ziyu. What should we do then? Should we fight? Yang Kai grinned viciously as he indifferently stated, don't worry, if they dare to come, none of them will escape alive. Once he proclaimed this, the three young women looked at Yang Kai in astonishment, their faces filled with surprise. Yang Kai's earlier statement could be blamed on him having outdated intelligence, not knowing Feng-Shi had already broken through to the Emperor realm, but now when he still dared to say the same after learning about Feng-Shi's true strength, he seemed arrogant and overconfident. No matter how strong Senior Brother Yang is supposed to be, he is still just a Dao Source Realm cultivator, right? How can a Dao Source Realm be an opponent of an Emperor Realm? The two are basically not on the same level. If it really came to a fight, Senior Brother Yang would miserably die for sure. Noticing the strange looks on their faces, Yang Kai knew what was going through their minds, but he didn't bother to explain himself. Instead, he turned serious as he stated, an Emperor Realm Master's attacks are all extremely powerful, and Sister Ziyu is at the critical point in her breakthrough. She cannot be disturbed, not even the slightest bit, so I will find a way to distract Feng-Shi, while the three of you guard Sister Ziyu to the best of your abilities. Senior Brother Yang, are you planning to? An Ice Heart Valley disciple suddenly covered her charming red lips, looking at Yang Kai with gratitude and surprise. She had clearly understood his intentions. He was clearly planning to disregard his own safety to give Ziyu time and space to break through. Suddenly, her face turned determined as she declared, Senior Brother Yang, I will join you. Yang Kai furrowed his brow, asking, what do you think you can do? She bit her lips and replied, I can do whatever Senior Brother Yang can do. She seemed to have decided to ignore her life or death. Yang Kai failed to stop himself from laughing as he refused, no, I'll be fine alone. After having said so, he didn't haggle with her anymore and flew directly towards the approaching enemies, leaving just one sentence. Watch over Ziyu. If you can comprehend anything from her breakthrough to the Emperor Realm, it will also be greatly beneficial to you. Don't miss this good opportunity. And with that, he disappeared from their sight, leaving the three Ice Heart Valley disciples anxiously gazing in the direction he disappeared towards, wondering whether they should chase after him. But it was also true that right now ZU needed someone to stand guard here. As such, they didn't dare to act rashly despite feeling as anxious as ants on a hot walk. Somewhere in the void, three Seeking Passion sect disciples, who were rushing towards the Ice Heart Valley disciples, all wore excited looks, and their leader was none other than young sect master Fengxi. Ever since Fengxi broke through to the Emperor realm half a year ago, the three of them have been all but invincible in the Shattered Star Sea. Thanks to Fengxi, the two disciples with him had also upgraded their star seals to 6-pointed ones. Fengxi even had a 7-pointed star seal. One could imagine how many they had killed during this time in order to rob them of their star seals and treasures. The might of the Emperor realm had filled Fengxi with confidence, making him feel as if no one was his opponent anymore. As he rushed forward, Fengxi suddenly furrowed his brow and his figure came to stop as he narrowed his eyes and scanned the scene before him. Young sect master, what happened? Seeing this, the other two disciples hurriedly stopped and turned to him curiously. Fengxi indifferently replied, "Someone is coming towards us." A yellow-faced youth turned angry after hearing this and coldly snorted. "Who is so stupid that he dares to challenge young sect master?" Another middle-aged man, who was dressed like a scholar, added, "Probably some blind fool just begging for death." Fengxi agreed with a nod. "Naturally we should kill this newcomer, but why does this aura feel so familiar? It's like I've met him somewhere before." While speaking, Fengxi suddenly felt extremely uneasy and his heart started beating wildly, making him restless. This reaction surprised him as, ever since he had broken through to the Emperor realm, such a sensation had never plagued him no matter how many enemies he had to face. He believed he had already reached a point where his emotions could always remain as tranquil as an ancient well. But now, his anxiety was running wild. Who is it? Fengxi suddenly became a little concerned as he narrowed his eyes and stared ahead. After a short while, a streak of light shot over from the distance and stopped not too far away from the Seeking Passion sect trio. When the light dissipated, a face that Fengxi was familiar with and hated deeply appeared before him. How is that possible? Fengxi's face distorted horribly as he stared at Xianxia in disbelief. 2.5 years ago, when he had first entered the Shattered Star Sea, he and Xianxia had been teleported close to one another, and knowing that he wasn't Xianxia's opponent, Fengxi had decisively used his Emperor Authority bead. After that attack, Xianxia's aura had completely disappeared, so Fengxi believed that Xianxia had died. It became a fact after he had not encountered Xianxia over these years nor heard any news of him. The terror that was Xianxia had all but disappeared from Fengxi's memories. But now, this nightmare had appeared in front of him like a ghost. Furthermore, he was perfectly alive and well. But how was that possible? How could a Dao Source Realm cultivator not die even after taking a hit from an Emperor Authority bead head-on? Fengxi's mind was in turmoil and he couldn't help but ask, "Are you a man or a ghost?" Xianxia pursed his lips and grinned widely. Young sect master is still as besotted as ever after these 2 years. How can you ask such a direct question when I have just arrived? How would you like me to answer? Fengxi became gloomy and confused. His divine sense kept scanning Xianxia's figure over and over. All the humiliation he had suffered in the past suddenly flashed across his mind, making Fengxi's aura suddenly unsteady and volatile. More than 2 years ago, he wasn't Xianxia's opponent, which forced him to use the Emperor Authority bead. But today, the situation was completely different. I have become an emperor, but this bastard is still a Dao Source Realm trash. There is a huge gap in our strength. Considering this, Fengxi regained his calm and he coldly smiled at Xianxia and replied, "Whether you are a man or a ghost, since you have met this young master today, your end will be miserable. Today you will die." Young sect master is so scary. Xianxia teasingly looked at him and asked, "But I am curious about one thing. How did young sect master manage to break through to the Emperor realm?" Fengxi replied with a proud smile, "This young master is a genius. Ordinary men like you can only look up to me." Xianxia countered, Yes, But according to your seeking passion sect's secret arts peculiarities, shouldn't the existence of this yang be a heart demon for you? If the heart demon isn't removed, how can your emperor realm cultivation be stable? Or could it be? Yang Kai pursed his lips and stated, revealing an evil grin, young sect master thought that this yang was dead, allowing you to break through to the emperor realm in peace? If that was what you believed, it seems you might now have a slight problem. As soon as he said this, Feng Shi's face drastically changed, and under Yang Kai's teasing gaze, his body slightly stumbled as he retreated 2 steps, as if he was struck by a giant hammer. A soft cracking sound suddenly echoed, one that came from the depths of Feng Shi's soul. Feng Shi's face abruptly turned pale as he felt something begin to break inside his body. It was his Tao heart. Unexpectedly, his Tao heart had cracked, and the cause of this was just a single sentence from Yang Kai, that's all. As early as in Ice Moon City, Yang Kai's existence had become a kind of heart demon for Feng Shi, one that if not removed should have made it all but impossible for his cultivation to advance. Feng Shi had believed that he had already killed Yang Kai, so his heart demon had naturally been dispersed, and he was able to break through to the Emperor realm in the Shattered Star Sea. But the facts proved that Yang Kai, his heart demon, didn't die. Rather, he had appeared in front of him again. Yang Kai's words had directly stimulated this heart demon, which Feng Shi believed had been cut off, affecting his Tao heart and causing it to crack. Blood immediately drained from Feng Shi's face as he grit his teeth and angrily shouted, "Die! Die! Die! I want you dead!" He seemed to have gone mad as a berserk aura radiated from him. Raising his hands, he fired off blasts of Emperor Qi randomly. Just the resulting shockwave from these attacks sent the 2 seeking passion sect disciples standing next to him flying. It took these 2 some time to stabilize their figures before turning to Feng Shi in amazement. The 2 had never seen Feng Shi in such a wild state. They knew that Feng Shi's heart demon was surging at this moment, and he was showing signs of cultivation dissonance. This sudden calamity frightened them to no end, and they hurriedly called out to him, wanting to pull Feng Shi back from the edge. Watching all this, Yang Kai just laughed loudly, easily avoiding Feng Shi's fierce but haphazard attacks. He then contemptuously looked at Feng Shi and beckoned to him, continuing with his provocations. "Young sect master, if you want to kill me, come and catch me, or I'll escape." Saying so, he turned around and rushed straight towards the depths of the void. Feng Shi's eyes turned red as he repeatedly roared in anger before chasing after Yang Kai. The yellow-faced young man and the scholar glanced at each other before anxiously chasing after Feng Shi. Both of them cursed Yang Kai as despicable and shameless. After all, he had deliberately targeted the weaknesses in their young sect master's mind, causing him to lose control. If Feng Shi wasn't able to regain his composure, he might really fall into cultivation dissonance. Feng Shi had only just broken through to the Emperor realm, and his cultivation was still unstable. So now that his heart demon had been stirred up by Yang Kai, the situation was critical. But at this moment, the 2 of them couldn't do anything. They couldn't help Feng Shi at all and could only pray that Feng Shi could rid himself of his anger on his own. After the 4 flew off, they soon left the nearby space of that shattered star where Ziyu and the others were. The reason Yang Kai had acted this way was that he was afraid that the fallout of a battle would interfere with Ziyu's breakthrough. What he hadn't expected was for Feng Shi to be so easily provoked. It seemed that this guy had not tempered his mental fortitude enough, or he simply hated him too much. An hour later, when Yang figured he was far enough from Ziyu and the others, he came to a stop and turned to stare coldly at the 3 seeking passion sect disciples who were hot on his tail. But the next thing that entered his eyes surprised him slightly, because during this hour-long chase, Feng Shi had actually managed to calm his raging emotions, returning from his berserk state. At this moment, Feng Shi had some clarity despite his rage. Yang Kai couldn't help but be a little surprised by this. It seemed this young sect master had some skill after all. It turns out he was not just a fool, and his breakthrough to the Emperor realm was not just a fluke. Feng Shi stood 1,000 meters away from Yang Kai. The yellow-faced youth and the scholar soon arrived and lined up beside him. Seeing Feng Shi's improved state, both of them secretly breathed a sigh of relief. The scholar whispered, "Young sect master, No matter what he says later, you must not allow him to rattle you again. This young master knows that already. Feng-Shi impatiently lashed out before he turned a cold glare at Yang Kai and asked, "Was your objective to lead this young master away so you could break through in peace?" Yang Kai raised his brow, praising, "Young sect master seems to have some intelligence. You are correct." Feng-Shi rebuked with a cold snort. "It was blatantly obvious. But your efforts are meaningless." Yang Kai curiously asked, "How can it be meaningless? Perhaps you has already broken through to the Emperor Realm?" Feng-Shi just sneered. "Do you think breaking through to the Emperor Realm is mere children's play? It will certainly take her some time to break through, but it will only take a wave of this young master's hand to kill you. It won't be too late to go look for her after this young master kills you." Yang Kai said with a stoic face, "Young sect master, you are making me sad by saying this." Then he pursed his lips as he sarcastically added, "Your Emperor authority bead couldn't kill me last time, so what makes you think you can?" Feng-Shi turned furious after hearing this and was going to snap back, but he suddenly took a deep breath and calmed his raging anger before flatly declaring, "Last time, the only reason you managed to keep your dog life was that this young master was too negligent, but now are different." His face turned grim as he coldly emphasized, "This young master will personally tear you to pieces this time." Yang Kai coldly retorted, "Young sect master, don't be a braggart. Be careful lest you can't follow through on your promise." "Ha ha." Feng-Shi grinned and stated, "In fact, this young master should thank you. If you hadn't appeared before this young master now, I'm afraid I would have always thought you had died long ago. If so, I would have kept cultivating this way until one day I learned the news that you were still alive. When that happened, perhaps this young master would have directly fallen into cultivation dissonance and burned himself to death. But now, this young master only needs to kill you to supplement my Tao heart and perfect my cultivation, perhaps even strengthening it." At this point, his eyes shone brightly like stars. Yang Kai turned solemn as he stated, "I didn't expect to be so useful to young sect master. How will young sect master thank me?" Feng-Shi proudly replied, "Make your move. Otherwise don't blame this young master for not giving you a chance." Yang Kai broke into laughter. "Since young sect master is being so sincere, then this Yang will not be polite." Next, Yang Kai raised his hand and summoned the myriad sword into it. Pushing his source chi madly, he lifted the broadsword and slashed it out fiercely. An enormous horizontal sword wave suddenly appeared, seemingly splitting space apart as it flew forward. The sword wave sent out by Yang Kai was extraordinarily strong, far in excess of what a Tao Source Realm cultivator should be capable of displaying. The yellow-faced youth and the scholar standing beside Feng-Shi were astonished, and they couldn't help going limp as they faced this unstoppable sword wave. "As expected, you indeed have some skills." Feng-Shi, on the other hand, wasn't afraid. Rather, he mocked, "But how can the glow of a firefly outside the moon?" As he spoke, he summoned a sword into his hand and with a flick of his wrist, thrust it out, causing the enormous sword wave before him to shatter and fall apart in the blink of an eye. The yellow-faced youth and scholar were overjoyed at the sight of this and immediately cheered. Scram aside. After Feng-Shi had dealt with Yang Kai's attack with one move, his spirits had lifted and he shouted at the nuisance duo, who he only perceived as a burden now. The two didn't dare to be disobedient and quickly fled away to spectate from the distance. "Yang Kai, you really aren't an ordinary Tao Source Realm. If we were still back in the Ice Moon City arena, this young master would definitely not be your opponent. But in this world, one great force can surpass 10 masters. This young master's cultivation is a realm higher than yours. So how can you be my opponent?" He kept talking, but he didn't stop attacking, swinging his sword while releasing a dense net of sword chi that enveloped Yang Kai. Not only that, whenever Feng-Shi swung his sword, an indescribable aura filled the surroundings. Yang Kai was affected by this aura, which made him feel extremely restless. This aura seemed capable of dampening his fighting spirit by distracting his focus, forcing him to recall various memories of Su Yang, Xianing Chong, Shan Qing Luo, and Shuiyu. Yang Kai was surprised, realizing that this was some kind of strange divine ability of the seeking passion supreme art, one that could directly affect his emotions and desires. It really couldn't be underestimated. Biting the tip of his tongue, Yang Kai dispelled all the discomfort in his mind, and immediately after, the myriad sword moved back and forth as sword waves shot out one after another, meeting Feng Shi's attack head-on. Feng Shi's eyes flickered with a strange glow as he quickly formed a seal with his free hand before running his finger along his sword. "You are an ant, what's the point in struggling? Why don't you just die for me?" Hong! A heaven-shaking sword chi shot straight toward Yang Kai in the next moment as fast as a bolt of lightning. Yang Kai's face drastically changed as he found that he could not avoid this blow. With no other choice, he used his Nihility secret technique to push his form into the void. His figure suddenly faded as the sword chi pierced straight through him and shot off towards the empty void. After a short while, Yang Kai's body phased back from the void. However, his face was pale and he couldn't help but cough up blood. Although he had used Nihility to deal with Feng Shi's attack, he was still hit by the shockwave. Feng Shi, on the other hand, didn't let up. Taking advantage of Yang Kai's momentary weakness, he flew up, sword chi surrounding his body as his figure shot straight towards Yang Kai with an unparalleled momentum, leaving a long luminous trail behind him. Immediately, Emperor pressure spread into the surrounding area, pressing down on Yang Kai, causing him to retreat again and again. A look of panic appeared on Yang Kai's face. "So boring. This young master hasn't even warmed up yet, but you already can't take it anymore. In the next life, remember to give this young master the respect he deserves." While speaking, the rainbow-like sword chi cut straight towards Yang Kai. But right at that moment, an inexplicable foreboding feeling gripped his heart, making Feng Shi's face, which had been filled with confidence, turn dark and uncertain. When Yang Kai looked up again, there was no panic on his face. Rather, a smile of mockery had appeared. "What happened? This bastard is just a Dao source realm trash, so why is he showing such a strange smile when he is about to die? Could it be that he still has some ace up his sleeve?" As such thoughts flashed across his mind, Feng Shi grit his teeth and followed his instincts, kicking the void as he retreated. And as soon as he retreated, an enormous moon blade cut through the location where Feng Shi's feet were last standing. More importantly, the resulting void crack was emitting an extremely dangerous aura. "See?" Feng Shi gasped as he stared at the moon blade with widened eyes, a look of disbelief covering his face. This attack was well concealed and struck silently. More importantly, it was extremely lethal. Feng Shi believed that if he hadn't dodged right then, this attack alone would have caused serious injuries. What kind of power is this? Feng Shi's face sank all of a sudden. He believed that while Yang Kai's strength was outstanding for his realm, it was only that. But after this brief exchange, he realized that he hadn't yet seen the depths of Yang Kai's abilities. "Oh?" Young sect master reacted quite well. Yang Kai also looked at Feng Shi with surprise. Had it been 2 years ago, Feng Shi would have definitely fallen dead from an attack like this, but now that he was an emperor, it seemed his senses were far sharper. Moreover, Yang Kai felt that Feng Shi's emperor realm strength was a little stronger than Qiuzei's, who he had killed back in the past. This was to be expected, though, from the disciple of a top sect. Feng Shi's foundation was far better than that of a mere Qiuzei. Although Qiuzei was the palace master of Sky Illumination Palace, Sky Illumination Palace was just a second-class sect in the Southern Territory. How could it be compared with a behemoth like the Seeking Passion sect that had been founded long ago by the Seeking Passion Great Emperor? "You hid your strength?" Feng Shi ground his teeth, staring at Yang Kai unhappily, writhing in humiliation. Thinking that he was an emperor already, Feng Shi believed that he could finish Yang Kai off with ease, but instead he was almost successfully sneak-attacked by Yang Kai. How could Feng Shi not be irritated? Especially when his 2 junior brothers were watching from the sidelines, leaving no way out of this embarrassing situation for him. Yang Kai grinned and stated, "Young sect master's words are really interesting. You have made progress in this shattered star sea, so why would you believe others would remain the same?" Feng Shi had broken through to the Emperor realm in the shattered star sea, gaining a leap in strength, but Yang Kai hadn't been idle either. His strength had also greatly improved over the past year and a half while he was subduing the mountains and rivers Bell. Both his source chi and spiritual energy were now far more refined. No wonder Lord Father said to never underestimate any opponent, regardless of their cultivation. Today, this young master has experienced this firsthand. Yang Kai, you have taught this young master a valuable lesson. Feng Shi coldly snorted. I wanted to quickly take your life, but since you are stubbornly resisting, don't blame this young master for torturing you to death instead. Yang Kai retorted with a snort. Does young sect master still think that he can defeat me? Could it be that you think that I can't kill you? Feng Shi's eyes widened as if he had heard a big joke. You can give it a try. Yang Kai calmly looked at him. As you wish, Feng Shi shouted. Next, he withdrew the long sword in his hand and took out a different one. This sword was light blue and exuded an extremely cold aura. As soon as it appeared, the surrounding space seemed to have frozen as wisps of white mist rose from the sword. Emperor Artifact. Yang Kai raised his brow as he gazed at the icy blue sword, pursing his lips as he stated. I suppose this is to be expected. Young sect master's identity is noble, so it makes sense for you to possess an Emperor artifact. Yang Kai hadn't seen Feng Shi use an Emperor artifact before, a fact he found a little strange. Only now did he realize that Feng Shi did have an Emperor artifact, he just hadn't used it. Now that he took out the Emperor artifact, Feng Shi seemed to have resolved himself to go all out. Satisfied now? I will make you pay the price for this. Feng Shi contemptuously glanced at Yang Kai, and in the next moment, his long sword shook as a biting cold wave spread outwards. Heavenly snow-seeking passion sword. Suddenly, dazzling sword flowers bloomed before turning into murderous intent visible to the naked eye and shooting towards Yang Kai in waves. Yang Kai's entire body turned cold as he couldn't help but shudder. He promptly motivated the surrounding space principles as he stretched out his hand and clasped it hard, shouting, Solidify, Wang. A reverberating thrum suddenly rang out as the place where Feng Shi stood and the surrounding 1,000-meter radius space suddenly solidified and became extremely viscous. The supreme sword technique he had displayed was also frozen in place at this moment. Feng Shi's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. This. What happened? The yellow-faced youth and the scholarly man, who were watching nearby, were also taken aback. They couldn't understand what was going on. All they saw was Yang Kai stretch his hand out, and their young sect master's sword wave was directly suppressed. Break! Yang Kai shouted again. Walala! With a crisp sound, those blossomed sword flowers that Feng Shi had congealed, exhausting himself, shattered like glass while the ice-cold aura surrounding them immediately disappeared. Not only that, with Feng Shi as the center, void cracks as tiny as an ox's hairs opened and began densely swarming around him. In an instant, the space became extremely unstable, as if it was on the verge of collapsing at any moment. Yang Kai raised his hands and condensed two enormous moon blades, gripping them as if they were tangible objects. Then, with a smile, he turned to Feng Shi and said, Young sect master, your cultivation is still lacking. The Tao of space. Even if Feng Shi wasn't the most learned individual, he could still tell what this ability of Yang Kai's was, and that caused him to become flustered and blurt out in shock. He looked at the countless void cracks around him, and then at the two giant moon blades in Yang Kai's hands, his face turning pale. Yang Kai's face turned colder as he stated, This young master has killed more than one Emperor Realm Master. If young sect master believed that he could trample me just because he had advanced to the Emperor Realm, he made a grave miscalculation. Since you have made such a mistake, you need to be disciplined. Young sect master, this young master will discipline you on behalf of your father. Do you have any problem with that? Feng Shi coughed up blood in anger as his face burned with fury. He wanted nothing more than to curse Yang Kai's shamelessness, but he had no idea where to start. Meanwhile, Yang Kai had already swung his hands, sending out the two enormous moon blades. Feng Shi was taken aback as he stared at the moon blades coming closer and closer. How was this disciplining? Yang Kai was clearly planning on reaping his life. In horror, Feng Shi's face suddenly became solemn, and he lifted his emperor artifact sword up high as he released an intense sword intent. Yang Kai's eyes lit up seeing this. He might not have any idea what Feng Shi was planning on doing, but it seemed that he wasn't planning to sit idly by and wait for his death. That wasn't strange, though. Feng Shi had finally broken through to the Emperor realm in the Shattered Star Sea, and the days ahead of him were bright, so how could he be willing to die here? A solemn aura suddenly spread from Feng Shi as he slowly swung his sword down. His entire essence seemed to have undergone a great change at this moment, like he had turned into a different person. His eyes clear but also cold and emotionless. There is no love without hatred, as there is no Tao without the heavenly way. A reverberating shout resounded. Suddenly, the sword dazzlingly gleamed as sword chi flew out from the sword, creating a marvelous aura. Yang Kai narrowed his eyes in shock as he hadn't expected Feng Shi to unleash such an attack. This move was just like one only a true master could display, as it conformed to the movements of the heavenly way. If Feng Shi lived past today, he would certainly make a name for himself. Yang Kai's face slightly darkened as he clenched his fists and fiercely punched out. Exile! Suddenly, a pitch-black hole formed before Feng Shi, and an awe-inspiring chaotic vacuum radiated from it. The sword technique Feng Shi had just used was disturbed as minute flaws appeared one after another. Right then, the two moon blades arrived, while at the same time, the tiny void cracks shot towards Feng Shi under Yang Kai's control. Ah! A miserable scream resounded as the aura that was as stable as a mountain became chaotic. All of a sudden, Feng Shi's figure was surrounded by swirling void cracks, and streaks of blood spurted out from his body, turning the entire scene into a horrifying sight. Young sect master! The yellow-faced youth and the scholar were panic-stricken and couldn't help but shout. They believed that Feng Shi could deal with Yang Kai as easily as snapping his figures, so they never expected that a mere Tao Source Realm cultivator could completely suppress their young sect master. How is this possible? How could this happen? If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would have never believed it. But they didn't dare to rush to Feng Shi's rescue. So, even though they shouted out loud, they just stood still, their eyes moving about erratically, seemingly preparing to escape at a moment's notice. If their young sect master died here, they would certainly not be able to escape Yang Kai's sinister hands. Yang Kai didn't stop after just this, though. Rather, he swung the myriad sword and released a sword wave that could cover the heavens and earth towards Feng Shi. Chi-chi-chi. Slicing sounds rang out, and only after the sword wave had disappeared completely did the surrounding space finally regain its peace. Yang Kai took a slight breath of relief, while before him, a bloody and mutilated Feng Shi stood floating in the void, looking extremely miserable, his life or death uncertain. Gudong! The yellow-faced man and the scholar nervously gulped as their faces turned extremely pale, staring at the floating Feng Shi in a daze. They promptly scanned him with their divine senses and discovered that Feng Shi was actually gasping for breath. Obviously, he had suffered critical injuries. Run! They had to run now, or it would be too late. Just when the yellow-faced youth and the middle-aged scholar thought this, Yang Kai turned his head and coldly glared at them. Both of them suddenly gasped. Under Yang Kai's cold and frigid gaze, their limbs went limp and they couldn't summon the slightest bit of their strength. Are you going to kill yourselves, or do I need to come over and do it myself? Yang Kai stood holding his sword in a nonchalant and relaxed manner. His clothes were neat and tidy still, as if the previous battle hadn't cost him anything. This gave the impression that Feng Shi was the Tao Source Realm, whereas he was in the High and Mighty Emperor Realm. This contrasting scene was completely out of their imagination, and they couldn't accept it. Monster! The yellow-faced youth and the middle-aged scholar grit their teeth hard as they continued to rattle, unable to speak a word in horror. I guess you are choosing the latter. Yang Kai coldly snorted as he moved towards the pair. The yellow-faced youth and the middle-aged scholar suddenly stopped breathing. They wanted to escape, but their bodies weren't listening to them. A sense of despair instantly drowned them. However, the next moment, Yang Kai frowned as he looked towards a certain direction. The next thing that entered his sight caused his eyes to bulge in shock. Because Feng Shi, who was supposed to be floating there limply, waiting for his death, slowly stood up at this moment. However, his state seemed extremely strange, as if he did not have his own consciousness. His eyes shut tight and his movements stiff, like a puppet. Also, the Emperor Qi in his body was circulating madly, while an aura that left Yang Kai shivering seemed to slowly be awakening from Feng Shi. Very soon, Feng Shi stood up straight again and his eyes flashed open. Those eyes were filled with frigid cold chill, but also shone brightly like stars. Yang Kai was taken aback. The moment Feng Shi opened his eyes, that strange aura coming from his body sword and a powerful emperor pressure suddenly broke out from him, causing Yang Kai's breath to stagnate for a moment and his blood to stop flowing smoothly. What happened? Yang Kai frowned as he muttered. At this moment, Feng Shi gave him an extremely dangerous feeling, and when they met eyes, Yang Kai actually had the illusion of being stared at by an ominous beast. It was very uncomfortable. Feng Shi had undergone an earth-shaking change. His previous young sect master's bearing was nowhere to be found. Rather, a graceful and noble temperament had replaced it. Also, his eyes were filled with disdain for everyone, as if he was the ruler of the world. Yang Kai's heart pounded crazily as he found this feeling a little familiar. He had felt something similar from third-order Emperor Realm Masters like Yao Changjun, Qi Ri, and Bing Yun. However, Feng Shi had just advanced to the Emperor Realm, so how could he stand shoulder to shoulder with such peak-level masters? Is this one of seeking passion sex forbidden techniques? Yang Kai was filled with doubt as he fiercely swung his hands, releasing two moon blades that formed a cross-shaped cut that flew towards Feng Shi. This cross reached Feng Shi in the blink of an eye, leaving no time for him to dodge. Looking at the cross-shaped moon blade, Feng Shi's eyes glimmered with surprise, as if he was seeing Yang Kai using his space divine ability for the first time. But the calm and composed look on his face never changed, nor did he show any intention of dodging. Rather, he just slowly pointed his finger. This finger poke struck right at the center of the cross, without the slightest bit of deviation. Immediately, the two moon blades collapsed under the might of this finger, while Feng Shi hadn't suffered the slightest bit of damage. What? Yang Kai was shocked. He was naturally clearer than anyone else about the weakness of the secret technique he had just displayed. Although this was the first time he had used this cross-shaped moon blade, he had simulated it countless times in his mind, so the effect it displayed should have been extraordinary nonetheless. As for the weakness of this secret technique, it was exactly where Feng Shi had poked. How did he see through it though? Yang Kai's face was filled with uncertainty. If Feng Shi had such insight and ability, why had he been beaten so badly just now? Some earth-shattering change must have happened to him in that short period when he was unconscious and woke up. Who is your excellency? Yang Kai suddenly recalled a certain secret technique and his heart skipped a beat as he asked with a shout. Feng Shi coldly gazed at Yang Kai and replied lightly, "Junior, you are really something. This old master thought that you were simply extraordinary. But now it seems that this old master's vision still fell somewhat short." "Sii?" Yang Kai gasped in horror as he involuntarily retreated a few steps. Feng Shi's sudden way of taking pride in his seniority confirmed Yang Kai's guess even more so. He nervously gulped before muttering, "Soul Descent! You're Feng Xian." Yang Kai had long heard some top masters would leave a wisp of their spiritual energy on their heirs or disciples in order to protect them should they encounter life-threatening danger. Normally this technique wouldn't be triggered, but in the moment of a life or death crisis, this wisp of spiritual energy could be used to create a soul connection and possession, allowing the master to confront the danger in their descendant's stead. However, the price for using this secret technique was very high. Once it was used, the damage to their heir or disciple wouldn't be small, so few masters were willing to do this. Even for those who did use this technique, it was a measure of absolute last resort only. But now, this technique had appeared in Feng Shi, which meant that Feng Shi was at the edge of death. "Little brat, you're pretty knowledgeable. It is this king indeed," Feng Shi shouted. "What? Sect master?" The yellow-faced man and the middle-aged scholar were also taken aback. But soon, the two became ecstatic and immediately rushed to Feng Shi's side and knelt down, tremblingly greeting, "Disciple greets sect master." Feng Xian indifferently glanced at the two before reprimanding them with a cold snort. Two wastes who can't even protect their young sect master, forcing this king to appear in person. What use are you? The expressions of the two drastically changed, but they didn't dare to give any excuses. In their minds, however, they were thinking, young sect master is already an emperor realm master, far stronger than us, yet he was still so severely injured and fell unconscious after just 2 to 3 moves from this Xianxia. What were we supposed to have done? Wouldn't we have been killed with just one finger flick? Although they were cursing to themselves, the two of them didn't dare to really say what they were thinking, simply lowering their heads as cold sweat dripped down their faces. Feng Shi ordered with a snort, "Take your young sect master to a safe place to heal once this is over. If you can't even bring your young sect master back to the sect safe and sound, don't bother returning at all." Since the two could enter the Shattered Star Sea, they were undoubtedly elite disciples of the Seeking Passion sect. But in Feng Xian's eyes, they weren't worth even a single strand of his son's hair. And judging by Feng Xian's tone, it was obvious that Xianxia would very soon be dealt with. The two disciples quickly nodded, as if they were given amnesty. "Yes, sect master." Feng Shi turned his head to look at Xianxia again, letting out a cold snort and asking, "Junior, are sheer injuries your handiwork?" Xianxia replied with a dull face, "If I said no, would you believe me?" Feng Shi countered, "What do you think?" Xianxia angrily rebuked, "Then why bother asking?" Feng Shi's face sank as he stated, "Junior, you're quite bold to even dare to yell at this king. I wanted to give you a quick and painless death. But since you are so arrogant, don't blame this king for being impolite." Xianxia flashed a mocking smile as he quipped, "Feng Shi also said this before, but he was beaten black and blue by this young master. Sect Master Feng, be careful, or you might follow your son's footsteps." Feng Shi frowned. "You dare to look down on this king?" Xianxia lazily stated. "If Sect Master Feng was here in person, Junior would naturally not be your opponent and would immediately flee as far as possible. But, Sect Master Feng, you have borrowed your son's body to manifest your soul. So just how much of your strength can you display? Enough to take your life." Xianxia broke into laughter. "How willful! Sect Master Feng, be careful not to lose all your face today." "Silence!" Feng Shi angrily shouted. "This king will take your dog life, Seeking Passion finger." While shouting, he pointed towards Xianxia's location. An unimaginable force suddenly shot out. This force was completely traceless and invisible, but it still seemed capable of tearing space apart wherever it passed, a terrifying display of power. This finger thrust wasn't as powerful as the Emperor Authority bead that Feng Shi had used before, but it wasn't significantly weaker either. The reason why it wasn't comparable wasn't because Feng Xian's strength had declined over the years. When he had refined that Emperor Authority bead, Feng Xian had just broken through to the Third Order Emperor realm. After so many years, his cultivation had definitely made great progress. If he really performed this secret technique in person, its might would be far greater. But at this moment, he had used a soul descent, so the strength he could exert depended entirely on what Feng Shi's body could withstand. Therefore, the might of this Seeking Passion finger had greatly reduced. Nevertheless, it was still not something Xianxia wanted to take head-on. He hurriedly tried to teleport, but the might of this finger had actually disrupted the local space, causing Xianxia to stagger and get hit. Xianxia felt like he had been struck by a mountain, and he groaned as he spurted a mouthful of blood and flew out. All of his bones creaked while many of them broke. His body was torn and battered, bleeding all over. Xianxia was injured with just one move, proving just how amazing Feng Xian's strength was. Before he could regain his footing, Feng Xian swung the sword in his hand, shouting, "Seeking Passion sword!" The fan-shaped peerless sword wave crossed a distance of over 1,000 meters in the blink of an eye, reaching Xianxia. Xianxia couldn't dodge again. The yellow-faced young man and the middle-aged scholar couldn't help but rejoice at the sight of this. They were excited about their sect master's strength. No matter how strong Xianxia was, he was still completely vulnerable before their sect master's soul descent. After the last attack, Feng Shi's body's aura declined greatly. It seemed Feng Xian had paid a great price to unleash these two moves and was now slightly panting for breath. But this was sufficient. Feng Xian was confident that Yang Kai couldn't handle these moves with only a third-order Dao Source Realm strength and would soon be split asunder. Feng Xian put away his sword and stood straight, coldly looking ahead, waiting for the moment when Yang Kai died. But right then, Feng Xian's heart clenched as a sense of anxiety assailed his heart and soul. It was an intuitive response, one that only became more accurate as one's cultivation increased. He looked at Yang Kai with widened eyes, and noticed a solemn look on the other party's face while he quickly formed some strange hand seals. An inexplicable aura began to spread from Yang Kai. It was so profound and mysterious that it even shocked Feng Xian. He couldn't help but want to immerse himself in this domain and try to comprehend it. What secret technique is this? Feng Xian was anxious and doubtful. Although he instinctively felt that something was wrong, he still couldn't restrain his curiosity, and he stared forward with widened eyes, trying to understand what was happening. In the blink of an eye, Yang Kai had already finished forming his seals, and a mysterious seal floated before him which then flew out with a push of his palms. Time flows on infinitely, like a mighty stream, like an unending dream. Yang Kai's reverberating voice resounded in Feng Xian's ear like the calling of death from the deepest depths of hell. Feng Xi's face drastically changed as he shouted in shock. Flowing Time Great Emperor's divine ability, Time Fly's seal. Unlike an ordinary cultivator, Feng Xian was a third-order emperor, the sect master of the Seeking Passion sect, and a descendant of the Seeking Passion Great Emperor. As such, his knowledge and experience were extremely rich. As soon as Yang Kai made this move, Feng Xian recognized it as the famed divine ability of Flowing Time Great Emperor. Feng Xian's heart beat wildly as his face was covered in shock. His eyes filled with incomparable excitement. The Flowing Time Great Emperor was the only master in the Star Boundary's history to have comprehended the Tao of Time. In hundreds of thousands or even millions of years of history of the Star Boundary, there had been no other. Throughout the ages, countless masters had tried to comprehend the Tao of Time, but none even entered the threshold. This alone was proof of the profoundness of this Tao. Feng Xian believed that, with the fall of the Flowing Time Great Emperor, no one in this world would ever comprehend the Tao of Time again. But now, he actually saw the unique divine ability of the Flowing Time Great Emperor on Yang Kai. Did that mean Yang Kai obtained the inheritance of the Flowing Time Great Emperor? If that wasn't the case, how could he use the Timefly's seal? For a moment, Feng Xian was filled with envy and jealousy, but also some slight astonishment. His mood was extremely complicated. As soon as the Timefly's seal appeared, Feng Xian knew that he had underestimated Yang Kai's strength as he was affected by the strange principal strength. Feng Xian actually felt everything around him slow down. He knew that this was just an illusion, a misconception born under the effect of the Tao of Time. Shocked and horrified, Feng Xian summoned his sword again and poured Emperor Qi into it. Immediately, Sword Qi emerged from the pale blue long sword and sword intense sword. There was a solemn look on Feng Xi's face as the 6 desires in his eyes vanished and the 7 emotions receded. Seeking love without indulging in it, just like seeking heavenly way without Tao. Taoless, emotionless cut. The same secret technique, cast by the same body, but with profound differences between them. When Feng Xi displayed the secret technique, it was easily broken by Yang Kai's space divine ability, but when it was displayed by Feng Xian's soul descend, it literally shook the world. The horizontal Taoless emotionless cut flew across and crashed into the Timefly's seal, seemingly leaping across the barrier of time and space. 2 completely different principal strengths clashed with one another, shattering the space around them. Deafening rumbles resounded as the shockwave from the impact propagated outwards. Whether it was Feng Xian or Yang Kai, both were like lone boats sailing in the sea during a storm, their figures rocking left and right as if they would be toppled at any moment. The nearby yellow-faced youngster and the middle-aged scholar weren't faring any better. Under the corrosion of the 2 principal strengths, their eyes had lost their luster and their minds grew dull. At the same time, their figures quickly withered and even their hair had turned gray. Everything happened in an instant, but for these 2 it seemed as if thousands of years had passed. Hong hong hong. Deafening explosions rang out to no end. but soon Yang Kai was sent flying. In this clash, he actually fell into a disadvantage. It wasn't that the flowing time Great Emperor's divine ability was worse than the seeking passion sect's secret technique. Rather, it was Yang Kai who was weaker than Feng Xian. Seeing this, Feng Xian's eyes narrowed as a ferocious look filled his face. His figure jolted as he prepared to use another lethal technique with the remaining energy in his host body. Although he wanted to capture Yang Kai alive and extract the inheritance and secret techniques of the flowing time Great Emperor, Feng Xi's current condition did not allow him to do so. After hosting a soul descent, the damage Feng Xi would suffer would naturally be enormous. Feng Xian had also forcibly used the Taoless emotionless cut. If Feng Xian continued to entangle with Yang Kai, Feng Xi's body would fall apart even if he were to triumph. Feng Xian was currently feeling remorseful and angry. Had he disregarded his face and made a move on Yang Kai that day in Ice Moon City, he might not be facing this kind of trouble today. Perhaps he might even have been able to capture Yang Kai and obtain the flowing time Great Emperor's inheritance. Feng Xian would then possess the inheritances of two great emperors for himself, and his goal of ruling the entire northern territory would be just around the corner. How can you seek love without emotions? How can you pursue martial Tao without Tao? When Yang Kai was pushed back, he suddenly shouted with a hideous look on his face. Your seeking passion sect is only deceiving itself, ha ha ha. He started laughing crazily. Feng Xian angrily rebuked. What does a short-sighted junior like you know? Die! Just as he said this, he swung the sword straight down at Yang Kai. Yang Kai furiously roared. You think you can kill this young master? You aren't worthy. Mountains and rivers bell. Suppress him. With a wave of his hand, a bell-shaped artifact the size of a palm suddenly flew out. It was the mountains and rivers bell that Yang Kai had subdued just recently. Even the Timefly seal couldn't defeat Feng Xian, so Yang Kai was now only left with the mountains and rivers bell. If even the mountains and rivers bell couldn't suppress Feng Xian, Yang Kai would immediately flee. He believed that even if did suffer heavy injuries, Feng Xian would still have a difficult time killing him with his mastery of the Tao of space. As soon as the mountains and rivers bell appeared, Yang Kai immediately felt his source qi and spiritual energy being drained rapidly. In a flash, his reserves were completely empty. Yang Kai was horrified and his face turned pale as his head felt like it was splitting. This was the first time he had used the mountains and rivers bell, so he was unaware of the hefty price he had to pay. In the past, when his cultivation was meager, he had experienced something similar when he had used the Annihilation Thunder bead, but compared to what he was feeling at the moment, that experience paled in comparison. At this moment, Yang Kai clearly felt his death approaching. Instead of damaging the enemy, this ancient exotic artifact starts aiming for my life. Who knows what it would finally do? He braced his spirit and stared at Feng Xi with bloodshot eyes. Feng Xi's face drastically changed as he involuntarily blurted out in alarm. Mountains and rivers bell? The Yuan Divine Great Emperor's natal artifact? He was thoroughly shocked this time. He was already amazed when Yang Kai had used his space secret techniques. After all, not everyone could comprehend and cultivate the Tao of space. Afterwards, Yang Kai had displayed the flowing time Great Emperor's divine ability, much to Feng Xian's shock. Feng Xian couldn't fathom what kind of opportunities Yang Kai had encountered to actually obtain all these treasures that many masters would trade their lives just to catch a glimpse of. But at this moment, Yang Kai even summoned the natal artifact of the Yuan Divine Great Emperor. Feng Xian almost bit off his tongue in shock. Fake! This must be a fake! Feng Xian screamed in his heart, but his gaze was completely locked onto the tiny bell. The mountains and rivers bell suddenly grew bigger as it rang out. Its knell reached straight into the depths of the soul, making anyone who listened to it restless. Also, many mysterious patterns and runes began glowing on the surface of the ancient bell, while an ancient and desolate aura leaked from it and pervaded the surroundings, giving Feng Xian a sense of suffocation. It was really the mountains and rivers bell. This ancient aura could not be imitated. Feng Xian's face instantly turned pale as paper. Without wasting any more time on thinking, he turned and fled from here. However, a mystical force suppressed the nearby region, sealing space. So, much to Feng Xian's shock and dismay. He was actually unable to move even a bit. Even the Emperor Qi in Feng Xi's body seemed to be locked inside his meridians, unable to circulate it. The mountains and rivers' bells ring could suppress worlds. When the knells tolled, the suppression began, and no one could escape from it. Even someone proficient in the Tao of space like Yang Kai would be frozen in place by the mountains and rivers' bell, not to mention Feng Xian. If this wasn't the case, this bell would not have been able to suppress the Phoenix true fire for tens of thousands of years. As the mountains and rivers' bell came down on him, Feng Xian felt his soul tremble and he shouted desperately, "Junior, stop! If you dare to kill my son, this king will chase you down to the ends of the world and rip you into 10,000 pieces. Fuck you!" Yang Kai cussed, coughing a mouthful of blood. Hong. Without any surprise, Feng Xi was directly suppressed under the mountains and rivers' bell, completely vanishing from the sky. Ah! The yellow-faced youngster and the middle-aged scholar, who were now both old, feeble men, stood trembling in place, their eyes bulging and ready to pop out at any moment in shock. Yang Kai was just a Tao Source Realm cultivator, but he had actually suppressed their sect master's soul descent. Could a Tao Source Realm really do this? Both of them felt a chill gripping their hearts as they shivered from head to toe. Young sect master, is he dead? The yellow-faced old man opened his mouth to speak, but his teeth fell out as he did, making his words muffled. The same went for the old scholar. Although the two weren't hit by the time-fly seal directly, they were affected by the Tao of time and were now far past their prime. Cough, cough? Yang Kai kept coughing, looking extremely miserable, but he still managed to slightly flick his finger, shooting a burst of source chi into the mountains and rivers' bell. Hong! The bell rang once again, releasing a terrifying shockwave. Northern Territory, Seeking Passion Sect. As one of the top sects in Northern Territory, Seeking Passion Sect occupied a vast area of land with countless disciples. They had magnificent and extraordinary palaces everywhere, and the world energy there was extremely rich. Suddenly, an earth-shaking roar came out from an inconspicuous building. In an instant, the entire Seeking Passion sect trembled, and all of the disciples looked towards that building in shock. Everyone recognized that it was the voice of their sect master, but they did not know why their sect master was all of a sudden infuriated. Feng Xian was already a third-order Emperor Realm Master, whose mood always remained as tranquil as the water in an ancient well. If it wasn't something completely beyond his ability to accept, Feng Xian would never have such an outburst. But what could irritate a third-order Emperor Realm Master to this extent? A person rushed into the building with a pale face, opened the door and knelt down trembling. Bad news, Sect Master. This subordinate has just received a message that the soul lamp of young Sect Master. Before that person finished speaking, Feng Xian gave him a slap. Although that person had a powerful third-order Tao Source Realm cultivator, he still could not resist the power of a master like Feng Xian, and was swiftly reduced to a bloody splat on a nearby wall. Yang Kai! Feng Xian bellowed a name in his cultivation room as his face turned pale but looked violent, his eyes burning with anger. His soul descent was cast on Feng Xi, so he could more or less sense the happenings in Shattered Star Sea even though his body was in the Seeking Passion sect, and he clearly felt Feng Xi die. It was a shame to the Seeking Passion sect and to himself that his son, who had finally broken through to the Emperor realm in Shattered Star Sea, had died despite Feng Xian using his soul descent to protect him. Worse yet, the one who killed Feng Xi was none other than a mere third-order Tao Source Realm Jr. If he could enter the Shattered Star Sea now, Feng Xian would have set off to take revenge on Yang Kai right away. The murder of one's son was unforgivable, and Feng Xian's heart was filled with rage. He abruptly got up, turned into a stream of light, and rushed out of the Seeking Passion sect towards a certain direction. Looking at the direction he was heading, it seemed to be the location of Ice Heart Valley. He could not go after Yang Kai now, so he could only travel to Ice Heart Valley and look for Bingyun first. In any case, Yang Kai's life must end, and finding Bingyun was the only way to inquire about the details and whereabouts of Yang Kai. Feng Xi's death had maddened him, and he no longer cared about maintaining the delicate balance between the two sects. If Bing Yun could not give him a reasonable explanation, Feng Xian was prepared to drown Ice Heart Valley in blood. In a wave of dizziness, Yang Kai felt that someone was calling him. He struggled for a long time before he finally opened his eyes and regained his consciousness. "You're finally awake," a voice seemed to be calling into his ear. With a single thought, Yang Kai knew that the voice was not from someone beside him, but rather his embodiment. He had a kind of soul connection with the embodiment, so the embodiment could contact him anytime even though he was in the sealed world bead. Previously, when Yang Kai had passed out, the embodiment did not dare to pull him into the sealed world bead to heal his injuries as that would expose it to the void. There were numerous masters in the Shattered Star Sea right now, and it would be another source of trouble if someone noticed the sealed world bead. Therefore, the embodiment just left Yang Kai drifting in space while trying to wake him up. "How long has it been?" Yang Kai started to communicate with the embodiment, barely straightening his body. "Not too long, just a few hours." "That's good." Yang Kai sighed in relief before he examined his current condition. His injuries weren't too serious, but his figure had still been bloodied by Feng Xian's attacks. The biggest problem now was that he was very weak at the moment. He consumed all his power to use the mountains and rivers bell, which caused him to be unable to recover within a mere few hours, and he even had a headache from activating his divine sense just now. As such, if he were to encounter any danger at this time, he could only quickly hide inside the sealed world bead. After pondering for a while, Yang Kai summoned his flying boat and allowed it to drift forward as he sat cross-legged on it. He took out some spirit pills that were meant for recovery and stuffed them into his mouth before closing his eyes to adjust his breathing. In the desolate Shattered Star Sea, Yang Kai's figure was just like a grain of dust, unremarkable, drifting along without any special goal. 2 days later, he exhaled softly and stood up again, with crackling sounds emitting from all over his body. Although he had not completely recovered yet, his condition was not serious anymore. Yang Kai lifted his head to look around, but saw nothing. Even his 7-pointed star seal could not sense the existence of another human being. It had been 2 to 3 years since he entered this Shattered Star Sea, and he felt his harvest had been quite good. That was, until he met Feng Shi and the disciples from Ice Heart Valley. Only then did he realize he had fallen behind slightly. Even Feng Shi had broken through to the Emperor Realm, while Ziyu was at the critical moment of breaking through. Perhaps she too had made that last step and reached the Emperor Realm by now. But what about Yang Kai? He did not even sense the shackles loosening for the next breakthrough. The Phoenix True Fire and Mountains and Rivers Bell were indeed not bad prizes, since they both once belonged to great emperors. However, the base of a cultivator's strength had always been their own cultivation, while external aids were just bonuses. Without great personal strength, no matter how wondrous the treasures one had were, they could not be used to their fullest. Yang Kai believed that if he was in the Emperor Realm, he would not have struggled using Mountains and Rivers Bell just now. Ziyu and Feng Shi were already ahead of him, so what about the other rising stars he knew? Yang Kai suddenly felt an urgent sense of crisis. Falling behind in terms of cultivation was a true detriment, and even if he continued to find more treasures in the Shattered Star Sea, they would not be helpful to his growth. While thinking about it, Yang Kai sped up his boat in search of opportunities in the Shattered Star Sea. For several days in a row, Yang Kai did not even meet a single person, nor did he sense the aura of source strength, which made him feel a little strange about this abnormal phenomenon. For he had never experienced such a thing during all this time in the Shattered Star Sea. Another few days later, Yang Kai still sensed nothing. He could not help becoming a little suspicious, wondering what happened in Shattered Star Sea. Only on the 10th day did Yang Kai abruptly feel a trace of heat on the back of his hand. His mind instantly became alert as he realized that the star seal had detected the existence of other cultivators, and the warm feeling on the back of his hand was hastily getting hotter and hotter. Yang Kai raised his brows and hurriedly rushed in that direction. As Yang Kai approached, he was surprised by the presence of many cultivators' auras. Not just that, but also the extremely rich source strength ahead. All of this resonated with the star seal on the back of his hand. What's the situation over there? Yang Kai was curious, and he accelerated towards his destination. After half a day, Yang Kai was slightly dumbfounded by the scene captured in his eyes. In the starry sky about 10,000 kilometers in front of him lay a large irregular oval-shaped blue halo, like a vast ocean. Although the ocean did not seem very big now, Xianxia knew that this was only because he was too far away from it. If he really stood before this ocean, he would definitely feel its magnificence. What the hell is that? Xianxia whispered in his heart. A few hours later, Xianxia reached the border of this strange place. After examining the situation, Xianxia took a deep breath and he muttered with shock, "So much source strength?" He clearly felt the rich source strength coming from this faint blue ocean. Those scattered source strengths hidden in this faint blue halo seemed like fishes swimming in the sea. Upon closer inspection, Xianxia saw that this place really was like a vast, endless ocean with azure sea waves and light surging tides. A peculiar sight to behold. Through the star seal on the back of his hand, Xianxia unmistakably sensed numerous cultivators scattered inside this huge faint blue light, and he wondered if they were there to absorb and refine the abundant source strength. However, how could there be so much source strength here? With so much source strength, how much benefit could a person gain if they absorbed and refined it all? Xianxia dared not to think about it anymore, because Xianxia's thought was actually impossible, as no cultivator was capable of refining this much source strength alone. No wonder he had not seen anyone or sensed any source strength aura all the way here for more than 10 days. Everyone had already gathered here. Xianxia felt excitement bubbling up inside him, and even though he wanted to grab the source strength in front of him right now, he controlled his impulses and began cautiously examining the situation of the faint blue light. To his surprise, his divine sense was not hindered in any way, nor did he notice the slightest danger, as if the faint blue light was really seawater that happened to contain rich source strength. Xianxia smiled happily and jumped into the light. "Ha ha ha! Another idiot!" A ridiculing voice was heard not far away. This person had obviously been observing Xianxia and laughed at him as soon he rushed into the faint blue light. "Another fool dares to jump into the source sea? Doesn't he know how to write the word death?" Just as he finished speaking, a figure abruptly leapt out from the location where Xianxia had rushed in. The man who laughed fixed his eyes on the figure and saw that it was Xianxia. His eyes widened in astonishment. "How can this be? You're still alive." At this moment, Xianxia grimaced in pain as his whole body was aching. Sizzling sounds could be heard coming from all over his body, and in the blink of an eye, his clothes were melted completely, revealing his robust body. It was a terrifying scene. His skin seemed to have been scalded by hot water, and countless pustules appeared on his figure, staining his body with blood. However, despite his miserable appearance, Xianxia was very much alive and was now pushing his source chi to expel the corrosive power that invaded his body. After a long time, Xianxia breathed out slowly and changed into a clean set of clothing. The corroded wounds on his body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the scabs quickly fell, revealing brand new skin. "Gudong!" The man who had been mocking him just now couldn't help but gulp in shock. Xianxia turned to the man, and with a flicker appeared in front of him. This person was a second-order Dao Source Realm cultivator, slightly weaker than the average person in this place, neither high nor low in strength. He had a very quaint appearance. His features suggested he was cunning and ruthless, person unworthy of trust. He was startled by Xianxia's sudden appearance and stumbled back 2 steps, asking in astonishment, What do you want?" Xianxia looked at him in displeasure and snorted coldly, "Did you just say that this is the source sea?" Yes, this is the source sea." The man seemed to be tongue-tied as he replied frantically, "What is the source sea? Explain it to me clearly." The man looked bitter. "It is what it is, the source sea. There is a large amount of source strength gathered here. Also, it looks like an ocean, so everyone calls it the source sea. There's nothing special to the name. How did you find this place? Why are there so many people here?" Xianxia gazed at him coldly. "I came with a senior brother from the same sect. That senior brother was summoned by someone once we arrived. Friend, what do you really want to ask?" The man relaxed after seeing that Xianxia did not seem to have any malicious intent and questioned him curiously. "Tell me more about the source sea. Tell me everything you know." The man immediately asked in doubt, "Friend, have you never heard of the Source Sea?" Yang Kai slapped him angrily. "Would I still ask you if I already knew about it?" The man withdrew his head after getting slapped, hiding his annoyance as he replied with some surprise. "How can that be, with your cultivation? How could you possibly never have heard of the Source Sea? This place should be included in the ancient books of every big sect. This is a well-documented place?" Yang Kai raised his brow. "Yes, the Source Sea is a very famous place in the Shattered Star Sea due to the large amount of source strength here for us to absorb and refine. As long as we find this place, we won't need to search for those shattered star sources. However, the Source Sea does not always appear and its location always changes. On average, it manifests once every 3 openings of the Shattered Star Sea. But each time it does, it becomes a cultivation paradise for us cultivators. Is there only source strength here? What is the faint blue halo then? Why does it have such a strong corrosive power?" Yang Kai asked in a deep voice. He just suffered from the effects of the faint blue halo that looked like seawater because his divine sense had not detected the slightest danger from it. However, the moment he jumped inside, the extremely strong corrosive force rapidly melted his clothes and skin. Had Yang Kai had not retreated quickly, he would have suffered more serious injuries. No one knows what this faint blue halo is exactly. It has always existed together with the Source Sea and is extremely dangerous. Anyone who dives into it will die for sure. At this point, he suddenly remembered that Yang Kai was still alive, and immediately smiled in embarrassment. "Friend, you must be quite powerful to be able to escape from there. Many thanks for your praise." Yang Kai chuckled eerily. This man had just watched Yang Kai dive into danger from afar without warning him. Although they were not acquainted, it was still a bit much to have just stood by and watched. Other weaker cultivators would have lost their lives rushing in like how Yang Kai did. However, he could not blame this man, as he had no obligation to help strangers. The man could not help but smile awkwardly as he sensed that Yang Kai was blaming him. "Keep going," Yang Kai snapped. The man quickly cleared his throat and continued. "There are a lot of benefits that can be obtained from the Source Sea. The people who find this place generally choose to stay here to absorb source strength and refine it until the Shattered Star Sea closes. Friend, you have seen it too, this Source Sea is as vast as a real sea, so even if there are many people here, it is impossible to deplete the source strength. And there are rumors that not only scattered source strength is present in this Source Sea, some people even claim to have found complete star sources, or even 5-element sources." "Complete sources?" Yang Kai's expression changed. He was a star master himself and was well aware of the huge gap between the shattered source strength and a complete star source. A complete star source could greatly help one sense the heavenly way and martial Tao, while shattered source strength only provided some slight assistance in this regard. Yang Kai did not expect that there were not only complete star sources in this Source Sea, but also 5-element sources. Although the Phoenix True Fire he obtained before was also a fire attribute source, its true form was the remnant essence of an ancient divine spirit, not really a 5-element source. There was still a difference between the two. The incompleteness of world principles inside Yang Kai's sealed world bead was the reason why nobody could break through great realms inside it. Source strength was indispensable to perfect these world principles. If Yang Kai could find a complete star source here and have the sealed world bead absorb it, perhaps the world principles of the small sealed world would become complete, allowing breakthroughs to occur inside without any disturbances. As such, the information of complete star sources in the Source Sea caught his attention. Soon, his face darkened again. "The Source Sea is so dangerous, so how can we absorb source strength and refine it safely? Are you lying to me? I wouldn't dare to," the man shouted with a pleading expression on his face. "Friend, you have never entered the Source Sea before, so you wouldn't know the situation inside. There are many small islands inside the Source Sea for people to refine source strength atop without being corroded by the Source Sea's power." "Oh, there is such a thing." Yang Kai's eyes lit up. He had not really gone deep enough into the interior earlier when he tried to rush in the Source Sea, so he had not seen any of these islands. However, from his manner of speech, this man did not seem to be lying. "Friend, you will see when you take a look from above." Everything will be fine as long as you don't rush into the thing that looks like seawater anymore. The man seemed to be giving him a friendly warning, and then looked at Yang obsequiously. I've told you everything I know, you see. Humph. Yang Kai continued to question sternly. Since this source sea has so many benefits, why are you still waiting outside? Is there any other danger? I'm waiting for my fellow disciples, he responded hurriedly. My eldest senior brother told me to wait here. Why else do you think I would stay here? I also want to go in to absorb and refine that source strength. He had an aggrieved expression on his face, probably scolding his eldest senior brother in his heart. Yang Kai nodded, turned around, and flew over to the source sea. The man shouted at his back, "Be careful. There are several Emperor Realm Masters in the source sea now, and no one can save you if you provoke them." Yang Kai's heart sank as he heard it, realizing that things were as he had thought. Ziyu and Feng Shi were not alone. Many had already broken through to the Emperor Realm in the Shattered Star Sea. This was just the situation in the Source Sea, so what about the other masters scattered around the Shattered Star Sea? Perhaps there are more than a few who have broken through to the Emperor Realm. The Shattered Star Sea was indeed an incredible sealed world. Yang Kai's expression became dignified as he flew over the Source Sea and looked down, suddenly feeling strangely out of place. At this moment, he felt like he was soaring over a vast ocean with azure sea waves and surging tides. On the sea, there were indeed islands of various sizes. The small ones could only fit one standing person, while the big ones permitted up to 4 to 5 individuals to sit comfortably. All of these islands were occupied by cultivators sitting cross-legged, absorbing and refining the source strength released by the seawater. The surface of the sea was unpredictable. The tides were sometimes violent, sometimes calm and peaceful. In such a scenario, cultivators couldn't refine the source strength on the sea peacefully. It seemed that a shelter was necessary. Yang Kai had suffered from the seawater before, and he knew how lethal it was. He would not be able to refine the source strength here at all if he could not settle on an island. Yang Kai thought of this as his eyes swept over the sea beneath him, looking for a suitable location. There were a lot of cultivators looking for a place to settle on just like him. They were all flying in the air, but none of them showed hostility towards him. The source strength here was incredibly strong and would definitely be greatly beneficial if one could absorb it steadily. There was no point in fighting here unless it was a fight for territory. And some fights for land were indeed taking place. Yang Kai saw at least a dozen groups of people in battle as he soared through the air. Corpses of cultivators were constantly dropping down into the sea below without a sound, not even creating a single wave when they landed. After wandering above the source sea for an hour, Yang Kai still could not find a place to land as every place seemed to already be occupied. This made him feel helpless. He was not the type to seize a spot from others for no reason, so he could only search patiently. Fortunately, the source sea was vast, and there were still places he had not explored. He believed that he should be able to find a good spot. Looking up ahead, the sky was dark and explosions rang out as a group of people were fighting for territory. Yang Kai wanted to go around to avoid the battlefield, but at this moment, he suddenly heard a low groan. Earth sword, falling thunder. The voice rang out, together with a burst of crackling sounds as a blue lightning bolt suddenly pierced the sky and struck towards a certain place. Yang Kai's expression changed as he quickly looked over in the direction the voice had come from. Earth sword falling thunder was a secret technique that was used by someone Yang Kai knew. This secret technique was one of a set of 3, Mortal Sword Swirling Destruction, Earth Sword Falling Thunder, and Heaven Sword Shattering Star. Each skill stronger than the previous, and the combination of 3 skills was even more powerful. The one who cultivated this secret technique was Xiao Bai of Azure Sun Temple. Previously, in the Flowing Time Temple of Four Seasons Realm, Yang Kai fought with Xiao Bai and learned firsthand of the profoundness of the secret technique, so it was still quite fresh in his mind. At this moment, seeing someone in the source sea performing this secret technique immediately grabbed Yang Kai's attention. When he turned his head to look, he saw a figure in a chaotic battlefield, his white clothes flapping in the wind. If it was not Xiao Bai, who else could it be? This guy was always wearing white clothes, and he always looked elegant and cold since the day he met Yang Kai. However, he seemed to be in a bad situation right now, his white robes dotted with red blood, looking quite miserable. Next to him was another figure that Xianxia was familiar with. It was Murong Xiao. These two elite disciples of Azure Sun Temple were standing back-to-back on top of a small island, each performing secret techniques to resist the attacks coming at them from all directions. The small island they were on was not big, just enough for them to settle down. Both of them were the elites among the elites, and after not seeing them for a few years, both of them had clearly reached the peak of the third-order Dao Source Realm, but they were outnumbered now and stuck in a difficult situation. Blood spurted out of Xiao Baiyi's body from time to time, while Murong Xiao's hair looked messy, her clothes soaked in sweat, attaching tightly to her tender body. When Xianxia saw this scene, he realized that those who besieged them had not completely sealed off their path of escape. In other words, Xiao Baiyi and Murong Xiao still had a chance to withdraw. It was just that the two of them did not have the intention to run away. One looked cold and determined, while the other looked furious and sorrowful. Both of them stood their ground and kept unleashing their strength. This was a territory war. Xianxia noticed it at a glance. The island occupied by Xiao Baiyi and Murong Xiao was obviously favored by their attackers. These people probably wanted to overwhelm the Azure Sun Temple pair with numbers and force them to give way, but after initiating the battle, they came to realize that Xiao Baiyi and Murong Xiao were not easy to be dealt with. The gap that they opened deliberately was intended for Xiao Baiyi and Murong Xiao to leave. This was the reason why they did not completely surround them while besieging them. They did not want to fight them to death, and hoped that they could force them away. Unfortunately, Xiao Baiyi and Murong Xiao did not plan to escape, causing the battle to intensify moment by moment. Xianxia hurriedly turned around and rushed towards them. He was still regarded as an in-name disciple of Azure Sun Temple, and when Zishan and Gao Xueting had taken great care of him in the past. Furthermore, Xiao Baiyi and Murong Xiao were his friends, so how could he just stand idly by in this situation? Seemingly oblivious to Xianxia's movement, a long-faced old man who was besieging Xiao Baiyi and Murong Xiao warned, "We will give you one last chance. Will you leave or not?" Murong Xiao gritted her teeth and shouted, "Don't you dream of stealing our location unless you kill us." Xiao Baiyi did not say a word, but the sword on his hand blossomed with many sword flowers, and his murderous intent answered for himself. "Good. There was a path to the heavens, but you refused to take it and chose the door to hell instead. Since that's the case, don't blame us for being ruthless." Saying so, the long-faced old man signaled the rest of his group and put on a ferocious expression. It was obvious that he did not want to delay any longer and intended to end the fight quickly. The others understood his intentions and their actions changed, becoming more decisive and brutal. The faces of Xiao Baiyi and Murong Xiao darkened, feeling heavily pressured. The long-faced old man seemed to sense Xianxia at that moment and with a flicker, turned to greet him with cupped fists. "Friend, Western Territory Pointed Star Sect is dealing with some matters here. Please don't interfere with us and make a detour." "Oh? Are you guys from the Pointed Star Sect?" Xianxia did not stop his pace, but accelerated with a joyful face. "Indeed. Who is your excellency?" From Xianxia's words, the long-faced old man thought that Xianxia was also a cultivator from Western Territory, and he could not help looking at him suspiciously, wondering which sect he came from. Xianxia replied with a proud face, "I'm from King of Hell's Palace." "King of Hell's Palace?" The long-faced old man wore a bewildered expression as he could not recall any sect in the Western Territory named after the King of Hell's Palace. But soon, he reacted with a darkened expression. "Is your excellency teasing this old master?" None of the sects would use a name like King of Hell's Palace that could easily gain public hatred, so it was obvious that Xianxia was making things up. Xianxia grinned. "Why would I? I really belong to the King of Hell's Palace." At this point, his face abruptly turned solemn and continued with a deep voice. "The King of Hell sent me to deliver your life to him." The long-faced old man's face changed drastically and he bellowed, "Little brat, you court death." The source chi in his body surged as he hastily performed a mysterious hand seal before stretching his claws out to grab Xianxia. seemingly wanting to show Yang Kai a bit of his superiority. But what horrified him was that Yang Kai suddenly disappeared before his eyes. This strange scene surprised the old man because he could not figure out how Yang Kai disappeared at all. In the next instant, the old man felt a chill shoot up his spine, making him wonder if he had encountered a ghost. Before he could finish his thoughts, though, Yang Kai's face reappeared in front of his, so close he could feel the other party's breath. The long-faced old man gasped and immediately retreated, pushing his source chi madly to form a visible shield around his body as protection. Yang Kai revealed a sly smile on his face, and a white lotus bud appeared in his left eye before shooting out in a flash. Blossoming lotus. Yang Kai's soul had strengthened greatly over the past year and a half while he was subduing the mountains and rivers Bell. Now, he felt more and more proficient in using this soul secret technique, and the power it could display was also far higher than before. The white lotus bud instantly turned into a magical power that tore through the old man's protection and rushed into his knowledge sea. Just when the horrified old man was retreating, he suddenly stiffened in his place, with his eyes frozen as a pained look appeared on his face. There was now only a white lotus bud left in his vision, blooming hastily, its radiance seemingly devouring his entire body and mind. Yang Kai immediately sent out a punch, and under a blast of the violent power, the long-faced old man exploded into a mist of blood, leaving not even bones as his remains scattered across the source sea below. Ah! A scream was heard as the people who were besieging Xiao Baiyi and Murong Xiao Xiao stared in shock at this scene. Although the long-faced old man was a bit aged, his strength was definitely not low. He could easily be ranked among the top 3 Dao Source Realm cultivators in Western Territory's Pointed Star sect. However, such a strong master had actually been helpless before a single punch from the strange young man who had come out of nowhere. The old man had just ordered his people to decide the battle quickly, but now he himself had been killed in the blink of an eye. The one who killed him, could it be an Emperor Realm Master? Even though there were not many Emperor Realm Masters in Shattered Star Sea, there were definitely not a few either. The bloody death scene of the old man scared the few disciples of Pointed Star sect to death as they thought an emperor had appeared. Seeing Yang Kai rushing towards them unceasingly with a cold smile on his face, they dared not remain. They left Xiao Baiyi and Murong Xiao Xiao and escaped one after another. At this time, they did not even dare to avenge the old man, only caring for their own lives. Solidify! Yang Kai reached out his hand and grasped towards the void, causing a surge of space principles that froze the surrounding space. The few people who were fleeing widened their eyes in panic, realizing that they were now moving as slow as turtles, sweat beating on their foreheads as chills filled their bodies. Xiao Baiyi and Murong Xiao Xiao were overjoyed seeing this situation. They did not know who was helping them as they did not have the time to check the appearance of the stranger. But regardless, at this moment, they could finally let out all the anger that was accumulated due to the actions of the Pointed Star sect disciples before. Mortal Sword, Swirling Destruction, Earth Sword, Falling Thunder, Heaven Sword, Shattering Star. The 3 sword skills of Xiao Baiyi's secret technique were sent in sequence through his long sword. The ferocious power of the combination of 3 sword skills caused the world to shake. Although Murong Xiao Xiao was a woman who always gave Yang Kai the impression that she was gentle and elegant, she revealed her merciless side at this moment, summoning a pair of heavenly feather rings that instantly divided into 2, then 4, then 8 and so on, swiftly enveloping the Pointed Star sect disciples layer by layer. Screams were heard one after another as the several Pointed Star sect disciples, who lost their fighting spirit and intended to run away, could not resist the incoming attacks as their bodies were being restrained by Yang Kai. The 2 elite disciples of Azure Sun Temple unleashed their strikes, and these people collapsed like straws. At that moment, the sky filled with blood and flesh, with severed limbs flying this way and that. Within not more than 10 breaths of time, the few remaining Pointed Star sect disciples were killed on the spot, and their corpses fell into the source sea below. Star seals shot out from the backs of these people's hands one after another towards Xiao Baiyi and Murong Xiao Xiao, who quickly divided them between them. Many thanks to this senior brother for his assistance. Ah, it's senior brother Yang. Murong Xiao Xiao immediately recognized Yang Kai, and exclaimed with joy when she turned around to thank him. Previously, she was still wondering who would actually help her and Xiao Baiyi in this situation, not having expected it to be Yang Kai. Xiao Baiyi remained silent, but turned to Yang Kai with a look of saying, "I knew it was you," staying aloof as usual. After all, Yang Kai had used the space principles during their battle in the Flowing Time Temple, so Xiao Baiyi knew it was Yang Kai who had come once he felt the familiar fluctuations. Now that he had turned to look, he was indeed correct. "Sister Murong, I haven't seen you in a few years, but you have become far more beautiful." Yang Kai flew over in front of them with a smile and greeted Murong Xiao Xiao. Murong Xiao Xiao blushed and stomped her foot. "Senior brother Yang is making fun of me." "I'm not making fun of you. I'm just speaking the truth," Yang Kai responded solemnly. Murong Xiao Xiao blushed even deeper. Xiao Baiyi suddenly snorted coldly. "How dare you harass my junior sister in front of me? Do you think I'm deaf? Or blind?" Yang Kai turned his head with a smile. "Xiao Bai, long time no see." Xiao Baiyi's face darkened. "I told you. My name is Xiao Baiyi Xiao. Bai. E. Not Xiao Bai." The vein on his forehead was pulsing, obviously very annoyed by the name Xiao Bai. After a pause, though, he calmed down. "I heard that you are now a temple disciple. Although you are late to enter the sect, according to the laws of the martial Tao, whoever is stronger is senior regardless of age. If you don't want to address me by my full name, it's fine for you to call me Junior Brother Xiao, but I don't want to hear the words Xiao Bai anymore." "I see, Junior Brother Xiao Bai." Yang Kai grinned. Xiao Baiyi's face went white with fury. Murong Xiao Xiao giggled. "Senior Brother Yang, did you come here to help when you received our message?" "Message?" Yang Kai frowned and looked at her curiously. Murong Xiao Xiao asked quizzically, "Senior Brother Yang didn't see it? How am I supposed to receive any message when I don't have your communication bead or communication artifact?" Having said that, Yang Kai suddenly thought of something and quickly took it out of his space ring. It was a golden token, the Azure Sun golden token that Gao Shueting handed to him in Maplewood City. Only core disciples of Azure Sun Temple would have this Azure Sun golden token. Ever since Yang Kai received the Azure Sun golden token, he had never used it for anything. He investigated the token with his divine sense before understanding what Murong Xiao Xiao meant. This Azure Sun golden token actually had the function of a communication artifact, allowing disciples to send messages to one another. At this moment, Yang Kai saw a message waiting in the token, a request for assistance sent by Murong Xiao Xiao not long ago. Murong Xiao Xiao observed him, and realizing that it was the first time he heard about this, she pursed her lips in a smile. "Senior Brother Yang should check the Azure Sun golden token for information more often in the future. We won't know when any of our fellow junior brothers or junior sisters might leave a message." "Noted." Yang Kai nodded and put away the Azure Sun golden token. Although he did not receive the message from Murong Xiao Xiao in time, he did manage to save her and Xiao Baiyi by accident. "What about Xiaxing? Why don't I see him?" Yang Kai glanced around, asking suspiciously. Since Xiao Baiyi and Murong Xiao Xiao were together, it did not make sense that Xiaxing was not here, but there indeed was no trace of him. Xiao Baiyi replied, "Eldest senior brother separated from us 2 months ago. He said he wanted to look for a place to make a breakthrough." Yang Kai raised his brows. "Oh? Is Xiaxing going to break through to the Emperor realm?" Murong Xiao Xiao answered with a worried look. Eldest senior brother's cultivation has reached the peak of the Tao source realm a long time ago, but he never had the opportunity to break through. Now that he felt his shackles loosening after coming to the Shattered Star Sea, he hurriedly went to prepare. "Then why didn't you follow?" Yang Kai frowned. Since Xiaxing wanted to break through to the Emperor realm, he would need someone guarding him. Otherwise, he would not be able to resist any kind of outside influence. "He wouldn't allow us. We followed him quietly for a few days, but he managed to throw us off with his golden cicada shell shedding technique." Xiao Baiyi sighed. "Threw you off?" Yang Kai was exasperated, but figured that Xiaxing could do such a thing based on his character. From this point of view, it seemed that Xiaxing was not very confident he could break through to the Emperor realm. If he really was confident, he would not have left his junior brother and junior sister behind and snuck off secretly. It was precisely because of his lack of confidence and the possibility that he would fall under the world energy baptism that he did not want Xiao Baiyi and Murong Xiao to witness it, lest they become traumatized from the experience. Xiao Baiyi and Murong Xiao were both third-order Dao source realm cultivators, and if a shadow was left in their hearts because of Xiaxing's failure, it was very likely that they would never be able to break through in the future. If Yang Kai figured this out, Xiao Baiyi and Murong Xiao undoubtedly had as well, so both of them looked anxious and uneasy. Seeing this, Yang Kai consoled them quickly. Xiaxing has a firm foundation, so a breakthrough shouldn't be a big problem to him. I have already met others who have successfully taken that step, so if others can break through, Xiaxing can too, don't worry. I hope so. Xiao Baiyi knew that there was nothing to be done except to pray for Xiaxing's good fortune. Senior brother Yang, are you here to find a place to refine source strength? Murong Xiao asked. I just happened to pass by and noticed something strange here, so I came to have a look. Murong Xiao smiled. This is the famous source sea, so you don't need to go anywhere else to look for source strength once you're here. Senior brother Yang, stay here and absorb the source strength with senior brother Xiao. This spot is big enough for 2 people. What about you? The island was not big, just enough to accommodate 2 people, so if Yang Kai stayed, Murong Xiao would definitely have no place to sit. I will stand guard for you. Murong Xiao smiled gently. The 3 of us can take turns. It's good to have someone to stand guard, to prevent any unexpected attacks. Xiao Baiyi added. Yang Kai pondered for a while before he shook his head. I'll have to refuse. This is a rare opportunity, so the 2 of you should continue to refine and absorb the source strength here. I will look for another place. If anybody is stupid enough to cause you trouble, just send me a message and I will rush over as soon as possible. Murong Xiao objected hurriedly. But there is no other available place. That's why many people are fighting for territory. No more places? Yang Kai's face darkened. There is basically no free space left. We had to search for a long time to find this place, and we were targeted by those people before we could even sit down. Xiao Baiyi reported. It will be in vain to look for another spot, unless what? Yang Kai looked at him curiously. Murong Xiao bit her red lips and mumbled. Unless senior brother Yang has an Emperor Realm cultivation. Why would I need an Emperor Realm cultivation? Yang Kai showed a puzzled look. The depths of the source sea are where the strongest source strength is located, and it is easier to absorb and refine it there. As such, the deeper one goes, the higher the average cultivation of the cultivators there will be. Didn't you realize that on your way here, all the cultivators in these outskirts don't have very high cultivation? Xiao Baiyi explained. Yang Kai recalled carefully and realized it was exactly as he said, but he still probed in confusion. What does this have to do with being in the Emperor Realm? Because several Emperor Realm masters are occupying a large area in the deepest place, where the source strength is strongest. No one except for other Emperor Realm masters are allowed to approach. Many people accidentally rushed in there and were killed. Xiao Baiyi revealed. What blatant bullying! Yang Kai's expression turned solemn. Murong Xiao continued. Although there are wide spaces to settle down there and the source strength is far richer, no one dares to go there. Senior brother Yang, you must not go there. Otherwise, your life will be in danger. I understand. Yang Kai nodded without explaining too much. He was not afraid of the newly promoted Emperor Realm Masters in this place. Even Feng Xian's soul descent had been killed by him. So how could these new emperors in the Shattered Star Sea threaten him? I still want to look for a place, and if I can't find one, Yang Kai muttered, grinning with a sinister smile, I can just take one. Murong Xiao and Xiao Baiyi were about to object, but when they recalled the strength that Yang Kai showed just now, their worries faded. Yang Kai's strength seemed to have surpassed the Dao Source Realm. Otherwise, he would not have been able to destroy the long-faced pointed star sect old man with one punch. Be careful anyway, Xiao Baiyi exhorted, knowing that Yang Kai could not be dissuaded. You have to be careful too. Remember to send me a message if there is any trouble. Yang Kai responded, cupping his fists towards the 2 before turning around and flying towards the deepest part of the source sea. Xiao Baiyi and Murong Xiao watched his back, which was moving further and further away in silence. After a long time, Xiao Baiyi urged her, "We should hurry up and begin. We can't miss this opportunity." Murong Xiao nodded, and the two sat down cross-legged. While flying, Yang Kai took out his Azure Sun golden token from his space ring and kept it on him. This way, he would be able to immediately receive notifications of messages rather than having to periodically check the token in his space ring. As he flew deeper, the source strength gradually thickened. Yang Kai did not know how far he had flown, only that along the way he saw a lot of Dao Source Realm cultivators sitting cross-legged on vacant islands, refining and absorbing source strength. But after a while, there was no one to be seen anymore. No one was occupying the islands. Instead, there were extremely grotesque-looking dead bodies lying on the vacant islands, serving as a warning to the latecomers. Yang Kai guessed that this should be the work of the Emperor Realm Masters who occupied the best position. Although it was a bloody method, it was extremely effective because the dead bodies all belonged to top Dao Source Realm cultivators from the star boundary. Seeing this, any straggler would have to weigh their own abilities before proceeding. Other cultivators might have turned around and left immediately after witnessing such a sight. But Yang Kai turned a blind eye to it and continued to move forward, without any intention of hiding. At a certain moment, an Emperor pressure suddenly surged up from somewhere down below. Although the Emperor pressure wasn't very pure, nor very powerful, it was still Emperor pressure that harmonized with the heavenly way. Yang Kai's body jerked slightly while in flight and his breathing became slightly difficult. "How dare a Dao Source Realm trash come here? It seems that you don't know how to write the word, death." A low voice snarled, and immediately from somewhere on the Source Sea, a huge bloody palm shot towards Yang Kai. This palm was not only gigantic, but also emitted a strong stench of blood, as if it was formed from the accumulation of fresh blood, making it both nauseating and terrifying. Seeing the bloody palm coming towards him, Yang Kai immediately raised his hand and pushed the source chi in his body, sending out a gigantic palm of his own. Hong long long, there was an explosion, and the clouds and wind changed drastically, energy overflowing in all directions. A breath later, the two palm strikes canceled each other out, as if they had never existed before. Yang Kai stood firm like a mountain while quietly holding his ground. A soft call of surprise echoed from somewhere below. A pure divine sense came and scanned Yang Kai up and down, probably to check if he had hidden his cultivation, only to find that Yang Kai really was just a Dao Source Realm. The Emperor Realm Master who attacked Yang Kai could not help feeling amazed. He had not met a Dao Source Realm cultivator who could take a palm from him like this. Although he had only broken through to the Emperor Realm not long ago, there were already 7 to 8 Dao Source Realm cultivators who had died at his hands in the depths of the Source Sea, as the strength of the Emperor Realm was a world apart from the strength of the Dao Source Realm. But it did not work on Yang Kai. Not only did he fail to kill Yang Kai, but it also seemed he hadn't caused any damage or even forced him back. This person secretly felt shocked in his heart, wondering what kind of monster Yang Kai was to possess such terrifying power, even thinking to himself that he had not been this strong when he was still a Dao Source Realm. Yang Kai grinned. "This one is just passing by and hoping to find a place to stop and cultivate. This friend doesn't have to be so hostile." He scanned the Emperor Realm Master who made a threat against him with his divine sense. This young man had red hair, as if it was dipped in blood, and was exuding an extremely violent and bloody aura. Yang Kai had no idea which sect he came from or what kind of secret art he cultivated. Yang Kai was not afraid of him, and since there was no resentment between them, Yang Kai would have preferred not to start a fight. The red-haired young man looked up to the place where Yang Kai was, and after a short silence he said, "You can go, but don't stop within 1,000 kilometers of here." "Many thanks." Yang Kai chuckled, cupping his fists towards the red-haired young man before immediately moving off. But after listening to this young man, Yang Kai also understood why just a few Emperor Realm Masters could occupy all the region of the Source Sea with the richest source strength. This young man alone already occupied a position with a radius of 1,000 kilometers, so how could the others have such a wide territory? However, no one would talk about justice or fairness in this world. Whoever was strong enough could act however they pleased. Any Dao Source Realm cultivator who dared to challenge the masters here would end up like the corpses on those previous islands. After an hour, Xianxia already left the red-haired young man more than 2,000 kilometers behind, but he still could not find a stopover as he discovered some of the small islands that originally existed this deep had been bombarded to pieces by the Emperor Realm Masters who arrived first. They obviously did not want to leave a place for latecomers to absorb the source strength here, so they carried out such a tyrannical act. A world-breaking spear of light suddenly blasted from below, penetrating through the void and the barriers of space, striking towards Xianxia's face in the blink of an eye, causing some pain on his skin due to the chilling power. Xianxia narrowed his eyes slightly, acknowledging the power of this spear, and dared not to be careless. Summoning his myriad sword, he slashed towards the approaching spear. The dazzling sword light shot out and collided with the spear light, causing a shocking explosion. A trivial Dao Source Realm cultivator can actually take a blow from this young master? How strange. A voice came from below. The man seemed to be a little surprised too, similar to the previous red-haired young man. Xianxia's face darkened. Why do all of you Emperor Realm Masters who have already occupied such a large area still need to stab at everyone who passes by you? Don't you feel ashamed? The man burst out into laughter. If you dare to come here without the necessary strength, you have chosen death. He paused for a while, then asked, since you made it here, I suppose you passed through Chigue's test? Xianxia's brow twitched. You mean the redhead? Like you, he tried to sneak attack me, but I managed to block his attack and he just let me go. Xianxia snorted with a displeased face. No wonder. The man nodded lightly, after a while waving his hand. You may go. Since Chigue already let you pass, it means that you are also a man of great potential. I won't do anything more to you. Xianxia curled his lip in disgust, because the man talked big like he was being so gracious for letting him pass, even shamelessly claiming that he was also a man of great potential. How many more Emperor Realm Masters are there? Are you all going to act against me? Xianxia asked unhappily. If it was the case, he would not hide his strength anymore and just fight all the way there to avoid troubles. Unexpectedly, the man changed his expression faster than flipping a page and replied coldly, Little brat, you talk too much. Since I've allowed you to pass, then you should just pass. If you don't want to, I'll just make you stay here forever. Xianxia snorted and did not bother to pester this man anymore, simply changing directions and flying deeper. However, this time he abandoned his usual low-key attitude, pushing his source chi madly, making himself very eye-catching, believing that the Emperor Realm Masters would sense him far away as long as they were not overly focused on absorbing source strength. Maybe it was due to Xianxia's self-confidence and high-profile actions, but even though he sensed the aura of two other Emperor Realm Masters along the way, they did not try to act against him and simply ignored his presence after scanning him with their divine senses. Xianxia was delighted with this development. After an hour, his eyes lit up and he flew down to somewhere below. There was a temporary stopover here. The area of this island was extremely big, about 1,000 meters in radius. Such an island was rare in the Source Sea. Small islands could be found anywhere and weren't real islands, simply pieces of land that had formed through some strange coincidence. These tiny pieces of land weren't few in number, but they were also very small in size. However, the island that Xianxia found was definitely able to accommodate more than 100 people. After Xianxia landed on the ground, he looked around and felt very satisfied with the place. He wanted to ask Xiao Baiyi and Murong Xiao to come over, but soon he gave up his thought as he recalled the previous actions of the Emperor Realm Masters. Unless Xianxia went to pick them up, it would be impossible for Xiao Baiyi and Murong Xiao to pass through the territorial Emperor Realm Masters with their current strength. Xianxia sat down cross-legged and attempted to absorb a little of the source strength here. Soon, he raised his brow in happiness, because the source strength here was purer and richer than other places, and it also seemed to be easier to absorb as well. This was a cultivation paradise. Xianxia did not rush to refine and absorb the source strength here though, and instead released his divine sense to check his surroundings. No one was within 1,000 kilometers. With a wave of his hand, a behemoth appeared beside him. It was so gigantic that its height reached to the sky, and the moment it stepped on the ground, the island seemed to sink down a little. Embodiment. Xianxia usually would not simply summon the embodiment out of the sealed world bead, because the huge body of the embodiment made its movement inconvenient and it required too much of his divine sense to summon. But now it was a perfect time to summon him out. Xianxia did not need to worry that the strange existence of the embodiment would be discovered, as there was no one around here. Moreover, there was so much source strength here that Xianxia could not absorb it all by himself, so he figured he should share the benefits with the embodiment. The embodiment told him earlier that his cultivation seemed to have reached a bottleneck, which might be due to a flaw in the heaven-devouring battle law that he was cultivating. So now, if he could absorb and refine the source strength here, there might be a chance that he could break through the bottleneck. Without the need to communicate, the embodiment immediately understood Xianxia's intention as soon as he came out and carefully sat down cross-legged, activating his secret art. The embodiment also knew the star refining art. Back then, he had used this secret art to refine the source strength of the floating continent, which resulted in him merging with it and obtaining his current gigantic body. Star refining art was a secret art specialized in refining star sources, while the heaven-devouring battle law could devour everything. With the combined use of these two heaven-defying secret arts, Xianxia really looked forward to what kind of spark the embodiment could set off here. After releasing the embodiment, Xianxia did not stop, but performed a few hand seals and patted the sealed world bead, opening a rift in its barrier to allow it to absorb the source strength of this place as well. He wanted to perfect the world principles of the sealed world bead, and the source strength here was an essential component for that hope. After observing silently for a while, Xianxia confirmed that the source strength in the source sea was being madly devoured by the sealed world bead and turned his attention back to himself, closing his eyes and circulating the star refining art to refine the source strength here for himself. In an instant, this vast island seemed to become a vortex that devoured all the surrounding source strength. The embodiment used both heaven-defying secret arts, the star refining art and heaven-devouring battle law, together, and his gigantic body instantly became like a bottomless pit that was able to refine and absorb all the source strength that flowed into it. As for the sealed world bead, the rate at which it could suck up source strength was even more terrifying compared to the embodiment. In comparison, Xianxia's absorbing capability paled, but with his star refining art, his speed was still far faster than that of ordinary cultivators. With time, the activity here was getting more and more conspicuous and more terrifying as rumbling sounds were constantly heard. The source strength in the source sea was attracted to this island like 10,000 rivers flowing into the sea, gradually disappearing. The vast source sea was now actually being driven by this magical force, slowly flowing towards the island where Xianxia sat. The activity here seemed to have affected the entire source sea, but Xianxia, the initiator, did not notice anything. Slowly, the cultivators who were absorbing and refining at the edge of source sea realized that something was wrong, as they were surprised to see that the source sea seemed to be getting smaller. Initially, they were still a good distance from the edge, but gradually, the distance became shorter and shorter until the source sea seemed to drain out from beneath them. It looked like the entire source sea was at low tide, making their small islands in the sea turn into beaches, even if they did not move in the slightest. This discovery startled many cultivators as they did not understand why this was happening. The reduction in size of the source sea caused many cultivators to fight to regain territory. In no time, the scene at the edge of source sea turned chaotic. Although this situation had not spread to the inner depths yet, as time went by, those cultivators who were originally in the deeper part of the source sea would definitely encounter similar situations, unable to avoid the inevitable. At the same time, on a shattered star located far away from the source sea, it seemed that a great battle had broken out here, and the frigid star was filled with chaotic energy fluctuations of turbulent power that refused to subside even after a long time. A man and a woman laid on the ground, bound by an unknown secret technique. Although they were not dead, they were immobilized, and both of them were staring at a middle-aged man standing not far in front of them. The middle-aged man was burly and had a daunting look, with an extremely discomforting aura permeating from his body. His eyes filled with a shuddering shimmer. There were also some deep wounds on his body where his flesh had been carved out, revealing white pearly bones underneath. Blood gushed from these wounds, giving him an added degree of menace. However, the middle-aged man did not seem to feel any pain at all. Not only that, he even seemed to enjoy the sensation very much, with a grin plastered on his face. Who are you?" the man lying on the ground exclaimed, his face white with panic. The middle-aged man glanced sideways at him and muttered, "Why would a dying person want to know so much? You want to kill us?" The man was shocked when he heard this, then refuted angrily, "My junior sister and I have no grievances against you. Why do you want to do this?" The two of them were absorbing source strength here quietly, and did not expect this middle-aged man to suddenly fall from the sky and attack them without saying a word. As the middle-aged man was outnumbered, the two were confident in their victory and met his challenge head-on. But to their great shock, this lone man was not an enemy they could match. Although this middle-aged man only had a third-order Dao Source Realm cultivation and had not broken through to the Emperor Realm, his strength had long exceeded the level of the Dao Source Realm. He knocked them down to the ground easily. The senior brother was still rattled by the strange secret technique this man used, which completely immobilized him and his junior sister. "You misunderstand." The middle-aged man smiled cunningly, making the hairs on their bodies stand on end. "This king is not going to kill you. Not going to kill us?" The pretty woman relaxed when she heard him, forcing a smile onto her face as she pleaded phonily. "This, sir, as long as you don't kill us, we will be willing to compromise anything." Her companion's eyeballs bulged when he heard her words, and looked at her in shock, muttering, "Junior sister, you—" It seemed like he had seen his junior sister's true colors for the first time, and a sharp pain pricked his heart. He had never thought that she would say such a thing to a complete stranger. "Willing to compromise?" The middle-aged man smiled faintly while his eyes slightly shifted to the woman. The woman forced a smile. "Sir, as long as you don't kill me, I am willing to do anything." The senior brother, who was listening to the side, almost spat a mouthful of blood in rage, though he dared not say a word. The middle-aged man gave a wicked smile. "What if I want to eat you?" The senior brother's face paled upon hearing this. This middle-aged man simply had no bottom line, but neither of them were in a position to bargain. The only choice here was to bow down. It was not unacceptable if his junior sister could save the both of them by selling her body and looks. After all, their lives were the most important, and everything would be meaningless if they died. Thinking so, the senior brother grit his teeth, closed his eyes, and blocked out his senses from the scene which he had no control over. "Eat me?" A hint of shame appeared on the woman's face, and she stuttered, "Please be gentle." A light glimmered in the middle-aged man's eyes as he became extremely excited, and nodded. "Don't worry. This king may not look like it, but this king is a gentle person." He stepped towards the woman as he spoke. Seeing this, the woman hurriedly stopped him. "Please not here. Can we go to a more private place?" Although she was willing to sacrifice herself to survive, she still felt embarrassed to commit such an act in front of her senior brother, and therefore requested for the middle-aged man to take her somewhere secluded to conclude their deal. The middle-aged man only chuckled in reply, "It's the same everywhere." He seemed to have some perverted fetish that the following had to be done in front of the senior brother. The woman understood, and could not help but glance at her senior brother worriedly, only to find that he had turned his head to a side with his eyes closed, his body shaking in fury. The woman knew that her senior brother was deeply distressed, but their lives were at stake, so she had no choice but to grit her teeth and submit. The middle-aged man walked up to her and looked down condescendingly, without hiding his fiery gaze in the slightest, as if he wanted to melt the woman with his gaze. The woman was trembling, knowing that by now, it was useless to say anything. "Close your eyes, child. Don't look," the middle-aged man ordered faintly. The woman let out a breath and closed her eyes obediently, but she felt odd in her heart. Although she looked young, she was not a child anymore, and she understood the affairs between men and women well. This man really did seem to have some strange fetishes. The middle-aged man stretched out his hand and drew her in, wrapping his arms around her tender waist and hugging her tightly. The woman struggled to breathe for a moment and could not help moaning. She clearly felt the middle-aged man's increasingly rapid breathing. His hot breath on her neck caused her to feel weak and her cheeks flushed. But at that moment, she suddenly heard a voice that horrified her. Heaven-devouring battle law. In an instant, she felt a sudden pain on her neck, as if she had been bitten by a beast. The woman's beautiful face turned pale as she quickly opened her eyes and turned her head to look. Quite contrary to what she had been expecting, the middle-aged man's eyes had turned red and he had bitten into her neck, gulping mouthfuls of her blood. Not only that, the middle-aged man seemed to have used a mysterious secret art that was rapidly draining away her vitality and cultivation. Ah! The woman yelled in fright, realizing that the middle-aged man did not mean to eat her metaphorically. He meant to eat her literally. "Senior brother, save me," she screamed in panic. The senior brother, who had his eyes closed to endure the humiliation in his heart, noticed the abnormality and was horrified when he quickly turned his head to look. The middle-aged man's mouth was smeared with blood as he bit down on his junior sister's long and white neck, his throat gulping rapidly while devouring her blood. The junior sister's graceful face aged so rapidly that it was visible to the naked eye. Even her hair began turning gray. "Senior brother, help me," the woman pleaded again. The senior brother laid stiffened and shocked on the ground, unable to respond. He stared at the horrible scene in befuddlement, chills running all over his body. "Senior brother." In the span of only 5 breaths, the woman was now looking haggard, wilted, and surrounded by death chi. After spitting out these last 2 words with difficulty, her eyes turned cloudy, and all traces of vitality slipped away. She died. With a wave of his hand, the middle-aged man pushed her corpse aside and lifted his hand to wipe the corners of his mouth. He took a deep breath, revealing a satisfied look. The horrifying wounds on his body healed almost instantly, and in the blink of an eye, his skin had become as smooth as a newborn baby's. The senior brother was stunned by the scene, still baffled by what he just saw. He panicked when he noticed the middle-aged man had cast his gaze on him again. "Sir, please spare my life. Please, I beg you." The sight of his junior sister's tragic death kept flashing before his eyes, and he knew he did not want to follow in her footsteps. The middle-aged man snorted coldly and stretched out a hand from a distance as he bellowed, "Heaven-devouring battle law." A terrifying suction originated from his palm as he operated this wicked art. As if struck by lightning, the senior brother who was lying on the ground could not help shrieking loudly. The vitality and essence in his body escaped from his control and rushed towards the middle-aged man who was absorbing all of it. "If you kill me, my eldest senior brother won't let you go. My eldest senior brother has already broken through to the Emperor realm." The man lying on the ground yelled in an attempt to save himself, hoping this news would cause this monster to back down. But the middle-aged man simply sneered. "An emperor? So what? This king hasn't eaten anyone in the Emperor realm yet. But if your eldest senior brother really comes to avenge you, this king won't mind sending him to meet you. You madman! Madman, I say! You will die a miserable death." The man, looking grief-stricken as if bereft of both of his parents, gritted his teeth and cursed impertinently, but his voice gradually weakened as his fate mirrored that of his junior sister. 2 star seals flew out from the 2 corpses, imprinting on the back of the middle-aged man's hand. The middle-aged man possessed the same 7-pointed star seal as Xianxia. In fact, its light was even brighter than that of Xianxia's, seemingly on the verge of being promoted to an 8-pointed star seal. It could be seen from this that this man had killed many people in the Shattered Star Sea. After killing these 2, the middle-aged man stood in silence and savored the moment. Suddenly, though, his expression was filled with hostility, raising his arms as he screamed towards the heavens. Rather than joy, he was now filled with madness after the bloodlust. The howling finally subsided after a long time, but his face remained gloomy as he clenched his teeth and cursed, "This damn bottleneck! Why can't this king break through to the Emperor realm yet? 700 years. This king has been working hard for 700 years. So why can't he break through? The heavens are so unfair. I refuse to accept this. He cursed for a while, but then suddenly rebuked angrily. A bunch of trash. None could withstand the backlash of this secret art. None of you ever managed to use the heaven-defying gift this king gave you. Wastes. He slipped into a frenzy in his screams, wielding his strength recklessly as he destroyed everything around him. At a certain moment, the middle-aged man suddenly turned around and stared into the distance with bulged eyes, as if he just noticed something astonishing, his anger quickly calming and being replaced with trembles of excitement. Ha 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 ha! He burst into laughter. The seed is ripe. Finally, the seed is ripe. Who? Who is it? He yelled like a madman as he flailed about in uncontrollable excitement. Soon, he summoned a ship-like artifact and flew off towards the depths of the shattered star sea. If one were to observe from the outside, one would notice that he was flying towards the source sea. Oh! Time continued to pass. Although Xianxia left a portion of his attention to monitor his surroundings and planned to put away the embodiment and sealed world bead as soon as he found someone approaching him, his rate of absorption and refinement of source strength was not delayed at all. The sealed world bead and embodiment were also absorbing source strength more and more furiously, to the extent that it even frightened Xianxia. 1 day, 2 days, 5 days, 10 days, the size of the source sea had been greatly reduced from its original size. Not only that, the source strength in the remaining source sea was countless times thinner than it had been at the beginning. Now, not just the cultivators at the edge of the source sea realized this problem, even the cultivators in the deeper parts found something was wrong. In the deepest part of the source sea, in the territories occupied by Emperor Realm Masters, the red-haired young man who attacked Xianxia first suddenly frowned and looked up into the sky at a person who was standing there staring at him coldly. The red-haired young man grinned and looked back at the person dauntlessly. "Is this one of your tricks?" the visitor asked flatly after examining the red-haired young man for a while. The red-haired young man pondered for a while and replied, "I, too, want to know who is playing tricks." Both of them exchanged glares before simultaneously turning their eyes in the same direction. The red-haired young man continued, "Source strength seems to be continuously flowing towards there." The visitor agreed with a nod and responded solemnly, "That direction is where Xianxia is." Xianxia. The red-haired young man narrowed his eyes after hearing this name, and a trace of fear flashed across his face, as if this Xianxia had an enormous background that even he, an Emperor Realm Master, dared not take lightly. "Are you going to take a look?" the visitor asked. The red-haired young man smiled with contempt. "So, this is the reason that you came for me. Why are the cultivators of the Southern Territory all cowards?" The visitor snorted faintly without denying. "Xianxia is the descendant of a great emperor after all," the red-haired young man sneered. "Doesn't the Southern Territory also have a descendant of a great emperor here? Why didn't you find her instead of this young master?" The visitor snorted. "She hasn't broken through to the Emperor realm yet. It's useless to look for her. If you're scared, I'll check the situation alone." "Who said I'm scared?" The red-haired young man snarled and stood up in anger before continuing fiercely. "I don't care if it's a descendant of a great emperor. Whoever dares to snatch source strength from this young master will have to spit it out for me." He immediately flew straight in the direction of Xianxia, followed by the other newcomer hurriedly. After a moment, the two discovered an abnormal situation somewhere not too far away. 3 newly promoted Emperor Realm Masters were gathered on a single island that covered a vast area, and Xianxia, who they were looking for, was among them. Standing in front of these 3 emperors was surprisingly a third-order Dao Source Realm young man. The pair had no idea what these 4 people were doing at the moment, as they were just staring at each other without taking any action. What amazed them the most was that the young man with only a third-order Dao Source Realm cultivation was actually facing 3 emperors without the slightest fear on his face. "It's him!" the red-haired young man could not help shouting. The other person asked in astonishment, "Do you know him?" The red-haired young man's face darkened as he replied, "That guy passed by where this young master was half a month ago and took a blow from me without receiving any damage." Hearing this, the face of the other person changed slightly, as if it was hard for him to believe. The red-haired young man continued, This young master did not hold back his strength at that time. This guy is quite interesting. If he can break through to the Emperor realm one day, his future will surely be limitless. I don't know where he is from, but he's definitely not from my eastern territory. The other person did not give any response, being overwhelmed in shock and unable to calm down in a short time, his eyes fixing on the Tao Source Realm cultivator. Let's go down and take a look. The red-haired young man proposed and flew towards the island first. On the island, Xianxia looked displeased. Previously, while he was enjoying absorbing the source strength here, he suddenly felt that someone was approaching him and hurriedly put away the sealed world bead and the embodiment. Before he could recover from the fluster, 3 Emperor Realm Masters already arrived in front of him, all of them glaring at him with a gloomy face, as if they were about to eat him. These 3 emperors had undoubtedly just broken through in the Shattered Star Sea, as their auras were still a bit unstable. However, they were still emperors in the end, each one extremely powerful. Xianxia could guess the reason these 3 were here. They were obviously alarmed by the tremendous amount of source strength that was flowing towards and disappearing here. This was inevitable, though. Xianxia did not expect that the sealed world bead and the embodiment would raise such a fuss. Them being able to continue for half a month was already beyond his expectations. Over the past half a month, whether it was the embodiment, the sealed world bead, or Xianxia himself, they had received indescribable benefits. The total amount of source strength absorbed by the cultivators in the entire source sea might not be as much as Xianxia had absorbed. And at this moment, the source strength contained in source sea had noticeably thinned. Another pair of people flew over. They landed together with the other emperors. Xianxia glanced at these newcomers and his eyes instantly lit up as he greeted one of them. "Hey, Brother Wuchang. Long time no see." Of the red-haired young man, Xianxia still had some impression. After all, half a month ago, he was once attacked by this red-haired young man who seemed to be named Qi Gui. As for the man who followed Qi Gui here, it was actually Wuchang of Heavenly Martial Holy Land, one of the top rising stars in the Southern Territory. It was not a surprise to Xianxia that Wuchang had broken through to the Emperor realm, but meeting him here was a bit of a shock. When Qi Gui heard this, he immediately turned to Wuchang and asked, "You know this little brat?" "I don't know him. I have never seen him before. Don't ask me," Wuchang answered with a cold face. Although he did not have any grudges with Xianxia, they were not friends either. At this point, Xianxia seemed to have agitated everyone, and Wuchang did not want to get caught in the crossfire. Xianxia was exasperated. Why is Brother Wuchang acting so heartless? Remember how we worked so well together, resulting in a happy ending in the Four Seasons realm for both of us? Even if Brother Wuchang doesn't miss our old memories, you don't need to be so cold to me. Wuchang snapped back indignantly. What cooperation? It was nothing more than a trade between you and me. Stop exaggerating. Xianxia grinned. Our trade was a very important cooperation, though. Didn't Brother Wuchang benefit greatly from it? Shouldn't you give me some credit for you being able to break through to the Emperor realm so quickly? Even Xiaxiang is still working hard on making a breakthrough now. He looked at Wuchang with a meaningful grin and twinkle in his eyes. Wuchang naturally knew that Xianxia was talking about the extraordinary treasure pill and immediately snorted coldly. A trade is a trade. The goods were delivered and the bill was cleared. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. Brother Wuchang, why don't you just change your name to Heartless? Xianxia sighed in disappointment. Qi Gui questioned in surprise from the side. Little brat, speak clearly. What kind of trade did you two do that could help someone break through to the Emperor realm? The other 3 emperors who came earlier also showed an interested look. Even though they had just recently broken through and naturally did not need such a mysterious thing anymore, any treasure that could help one reach the Emperor realm was not ordinary, and if they could gain some of it, it would be of great benefit to their sex. All of these new emperors were heirs or descendants of top masters, and certainly had great forces supporting them from behind. What little brat? Xianxia's face darkened and he glared at Qi Gui. You? Red-haired punk? Can you not speak any polite words? You dare call me a red-haired punk? Qi Gui was so mad that his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The others were shocked again as they stared at Yang Kai with puzzled expressions. Among the 6 people here, only Yang Kai was a Dao Source Realm cultivator, while the rest were all Emperor Realm masters. However, Yang Kai did not show any fear towards them at all, even daring to speak impolitely to Qi Gui. They could not believe this was happening. One of the 3 emperors with a muscular body suddenly laughed. Qi Gui, you're being underestimated. Qi Gui stared at Yang Kai with a grumpy face and snorted. It's not that this young master is being underestimated, but rather that he does not underestimate himself. When they heard this, they immediately understood what Qi Gui meant. Yang Kai did not feel that he was inferior to them despite his lower cultivation, so he did not have scruples when speaking. I heard that he took a blow from you before? The brawny young man spoke again. Qi Gui snorted. That's right. This young master landed a blow using 70% of his strength, but he completely dispersed it. Oh! Another young man, whose whole body was lingering with black qi, raised his brow and inspected Yang Kai again, as if he needed to reevaluate him. Taking 70% of Qi Gui's strength was not something an ordinary Dao Source Realm cultivator could do. Even an outstanding Dao Source Realm genius should have suffered severe injuries from such an attack. But Qi Gui actually said Yang Kai was able to completely disperse his strike. Haha! Looks like you people from Ahan Temple are nothing much. The brawny youth laughed again. Qi Gui felt annoyed and he unhesitantly reprimanded. As if you can do something to him, don't tell me that this little brat didn't pass through your territory before. The brawny young man snorted disdainfully right away. This brawny young man was the Emperor Realm Master who used a Spear of Light to attack Yang Kai, one of the only 2 people who had tried to block his path. Qi Gui waved his hand. Let's not get entangled with trivial matters. What I wanted to know is, what are you guys doing here? The last Emperor Realm Master, who looked chubby and responded. Didn't you all realize something abnormal about this sorcery? This man had an extremely fat figure. His face stretched so wide that his eyes were barely visible. He was not tall, so if someone saw him from a far distance, they would think that he was just a giant winter melon. However, despite his funny appearance, this man was also an authentic Emperor Realm Master. Qi Gui replied to the fat man. It was because I noticed the abnormality that I came over to see the situation. The fat man revealed. It's the same for us. Qi Gui was stunned. He glanced at the Emperor's Realm Master surrounded by black qi, asking, could it be you, Yao Si, who did this? This made Yao Si, the aforementioned Emperor Realm Master, snort coldly. Why do you think it was me? I just guessed. Qi Gui sniffed. The burly young man said in a deep voice, it's not Brother Yao Si's problem. The source strength in the source sea flowed in this direction. This island seems to be the source of the problem. As soon as this statement came out, 5 pairs of eyes looked at Yang Kai together. Why are you looking at me? I don't even know what you are talking about. What happened? Why are you not absorbing and refining the source strength at your own place, but came here to me? Yang Kai's face darkened. The brawny young man frowned. The source strength in the source sea has been greatly reduced over the past half a month, and the flow of source strength pointed to this place. What do you think we are here for? Yang Kai's eyes widened, revealing a harmless expression as he asked in shock, really? No way. He sounded quite insincere. The reduction and flow of source strength was undeniable, and despite Yang Kai just being a third-order Dao Source Realm cultivator, even someone with lower cultivation should have been able to sense this. However, it was too obvious from his look of bewilderment that he was putting on an act. Though from his expression, he did not seem to be lying, especially the look in his eyes which was clear and bright, without a hint of deception. The 5 people began to doubt themselves, wondering if they were wrong about Yang Kai. Strangely, the flow and reduction of source qi did stop just now. Does this really have nothing to do with you? Qi Gui frowned. I am just a Dao source realm. How could I have done such a thing right under all of your noses? If the source strength reduction here was caused by something, it has nothing to do with me, it's definitely one of you. One of you did it and tried to blame it on me. You can't be so mean. Whoever did this should reveal himself. Yang Kai refuted. The doubt in their hearts was strengthened by the justification and solemnity in his tone. It was agreed that the source of the problem was on this island, but Xianxia was right. How could he, a Tao source realm cultivator, do such a thing? The brawny young man said thoughtfully, "The abnormality of the source sea began half a month ago. It wasn't very obvious at first, but it became more apparent after this boy arrived here." Hearing what he had said, the other four looked at Xianxia with suspicious expressions again. After all, the timing was too coincidental. "You can eat anything you want, but you cannot say anything you please." Xianxia glared at him. "If this friend speaks nonsense again, I'll not be polite to you." "You will not be polite to me?" The brawny young man's eyes widened into circles, as if hearing the funniest joke in the world, and grinned. "I am interested to see how you are going to be impolite to me." He was also an Emperor Realm Master. Although Xianxia took his blow rather well earlier, he really did not think Xianxia was a match for him. If there was really a battle to the death here, he believed that he would be able to take Xianxia down in 3 moves. That's enough. Since the problem is not from here, there must be some unusual change in the source sea. For some reason, Wuchang stood up and put an end to the dispute, which was a relief for Xianxia. Xianxia glanced at him with distrust, but Wuchang ignored it and continued. "Instead of getting entangled here without any proof, it is better to go back and continue absorbing and refining. Although the source sea has been reduced a lot, it hasn't completely disappeared yet. I believe it's still enough to meet everyone's needs." The fat man nodded. That's right." The brawny young man and Chi Gui could not think of a better idea. But Yao Si, the son of a great emperor, had other ideas. "Boy, whether or not the changes in the source sea were caused by you, you must leave this place now. This is the territory for Emperor Realm Masters. You are not qualified to set foot in this place with your current strength." Xianxia turned to glance at him before sneering softly. "Who are you to say that I'm not qualified? Have you asked for my opinion?" Xianxia naturally would not leave cooperatively as Yao Si wanted. Although he had scraped a lot of source strength from the source sea already, there was still a lot left. The world principles in his sealed world bead had not been perfect yet. The embodiment showed no signs of breaking through to the Emperor realm, and he did not even sense the opportunity of a breakthrough himself. Wouldn't it be a failure to leave at this time? Yao Si narrowed his eyes and glowered coldly. "Either leave or die. I'll give you 3 breaths to pick. You can try." Xianxia looked sideways at him. Everyone was flabbergasted, looking at Xianxia with amazement. Such an attitude would still make sense if it were another newly promoted Emperor Realm Master, but Xianxia was only a 3rd-order Tao Source Realm cultivator. So while he seemed to have exceedingly high strength and amazing potential, who was Yao Si? He was the son of a great emperor, the descendant of the serene soul great emperor from the Eastern Territory. All the Emperor Realm Masters present were afraid of him and had to give him face. Although they would not be timid in front of him, no one dared to talk back to him like this. But Xianxia openly challenged him. This boy had the confidence to talk back to the son of a great emperor in such a tone. That brawny young man realized that this brat was an idiot and couldn't help feeling baffled at how he himself wanted to engage in a fight with this fool just now. He shook his head slowly, thinking that Xianxia was bound to die this time. If he was the one Xianxia offended, Xianxia would not end up dead. At best, he would just give Xianxia a severe lesson, but if he offended Yao Si, he would definitely end up dead. Wu Chang's expression also changed slightly, but he didn't say much. He had just spoken out to help Xianxia get out of trouble, because they were both from the Southern Territory. He could compete with Xianxia as much as he wanted in the Southern Territory, as that would be considered an internal struggle, and they could even fight to the death if they wished, but in front of the masters of the other 3 territories in the Shattered Star Sea, he could not sit back and watch Xianxia getting bullied. But now he discovered that Xianxia was simply unreasonable. What good could come out of it for provoking the son of a great emperor like this? An unbending tree is easily broken. This little brat was simply too young and aggressive. Suddenly, the air became stagnant and even the void began to fill with a frigid, murderous intent. Yao Si looked at Xianxia faintly, his eyes cold, as if he was looking at a dead person. But to his surprise, Xianxia showed no fear and met his gaze head-on. Yao Xi's face darkened as he prepared to strike Yang Kai, but at the critical moment, a streak of light flew over from the distance and arrived above everyone's head. Everyone squinted up into the sky, wondering who this rude newcomer was. The flash of light dissipated, revealing a burly middle-aged man. He stared down with wide, glowing eyes, his expression extremely eager, as if he were a starving beast that had finally seen its prey after countless years. But soon, he trembled, his face stiffened, and he gulped hard. The 6 people below glared up at him, and 5 of them were Emperor Realm Masters. He had rushed over here feeling extremely excited, but had never anticipated such a scene to be waiting for him. He almost turned around and escaped in fear at the mere sight. Although he was not too concerned about an ordinary Emperor Realm cultivator, there were 5 of them here, so if they really fought, he would definitely not be their match. Yang Kai muttered in surprise as he saw this newcomer, but soon a joyful look filled his face. Shockingly, he knew the person who came. He had planned to look for this person after the Shattered Star Sea closed, but now he had actually shown up here. It was Wu Mengchuan, the sect master of Blue Feather Sect, a descendant of heaven-devouring Great Emperor. Wu Mengchuan was the one who passed the heaven-devouring battle law to Yang Kai, but Yang Kai never dared to cultivate it and instead handed it over to the embodiment, who accepted it delightedly, resulting in his rapidly improving cultivation. However, the embodiment had reached a bottleneck in his cultivation, probably due to some flaw in the secret art. Perhaps the heaven-devouring battle law passed down to Yang Kai by Wu Mengchuan back then was incomplete. The reason Yang Kai planned to seek for Wu Mengchuan was to inquire about the heaven-devouring battle law and to get the complete secret art from him. Otherwise, the cultivation of the embodiment would most likely remain stagnant. Back then, Yang Kai only had a third-order Origin King cultivation and was no match for Wu Mengchuan, but now he was a third-order Dao Source Realm cultivator, so there was no need to fear him anymore. The 2 of them had different thoughts, but both were extremely surprised to encounter each other here. Well, what do we have here? The brawny young man spat disdainfully at the discovery that Wu Mengchuan was also a third-order Dao Source Realm. Previously, he only permitted Yang Kai to come in because he took his blow without suffering a loss. Now, he did not want to waste time and energy on Yang Kai as he was eager to absorb and refine the remaining source strength here. However, before he could do so, another Dao Source Realm cultivator had invaded the territory of the Emperor Realm Masters. Just kill him. Qi Gui snorted coldly. Wu Mengchuan was appalled. Although he did not know what these 6 people were doing there, the extremely hostile look in the eyes of the 5 emperors was evident. Quickly wiping the cold sweat from his forehead, Wu Mengchuan apologized. Sorry. This one has broken into the precious land by mistake. This one will retreat. Please calm your anger. He glanced at Yang Kai involuntarily as he spoke before turning around and trying to leave with a strange expression on his face. He recognized Yang Kai, and he still remembered teaching Yang Kai the heaven-devouring battle law in the bone prison back then, but upon examining him up close, he could not detect any traces of the heaven-devouring battle law from Yang Kai. This greatly puzzled Wu Mengchuan. He sensed the wave of the matured seed emanating from here, but when he hurried to the place, the wave disappeared, and he encountered Yang Kai instead. He was at a loss of what happened. Big cousin, don't leave. Since you're already here, why do you have to leave in such a hurry? Yang Kai suddenly shouted at Wu Mengchuan enthusiastically. Wu Mengchuan staggered at his words and almost fell from the air. He hurriedly wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and reprimanded. Who is your big cousin? Yang Kai responded solemnly. Big cousin, you're so bad. You pretended to not recognize your little cousin here. I'll tell your mother. Be careful when she beats you. Wu Mengchuan was annoyed. Little brat. Stop all your gibberish. He is your big cousin? The brawny young man looked at Yang Kai with a weird look and continued. But he doesn't look like it. Yang Kai responded. He is like this. While speaking, he looked up to Wu Mengchuan. Big cousin. There are people here who are going to bully your little cousin. Shouldn't you stand up for me? Wu Mengchuan's face darkened. Little brat, if you dare to speak nonsense again, don't blame me for treating you impolitely. Yang Kai was immediately infuriated. Everyone wants to treat me poorly. Is this young master so much fun to bully? Do you believe that I will come up and beat you up until your mother doesn't recognize you? Wu Mengchuan was steaming with anger at Yang Kai's incessant mention of his mother. However, there were 5 Emperor Realm Masters here, so he dared not to act recklessly, only sneering. If you have guts, come over here. Let's see who will be the one getting beaten. Just you wait. Yang Kai immediately flew up after he spoke, throwing a series of punches towards Wu Mengchuan air. Little brat, how dare you? Wu Mengchuan was maddened. Even though he feared the 5 Emperor Realm Masters here, it did not mean that he was afraid of Yang Kai. Seeing Yang Kai come up with his unceremonious punches, Wu Mengchuan did not hesitate to fight back. He was not sure about the relationship between Yang Kai and the other 5, so he dared not to land a fatal blow, only using half of his strength in attacking. In an instant, the sky was full of rumbling sounds as the pair exchanged punches and kicks furiously. Although the scene looked extraordinarily boisterous, in fact, no one was using any real strength. In the meantime, Yang Kai gave Wu Mengchuan a secret signal with a wink. Although Wu Mengchuan did not fully understand what Yang Kai meant, for a person who had lived for so long, he was smart enough to understand the meaning. At this point, he seemed to be fighting fiercely with Yang Kai, but actually, he was cooperating with Yang Kai, quickly shifting their battlefield out of this dangerous place. In no time, the 2 of them were out of the 5 Emperor Realm Masters' sight, and after a while, even their divine senses could not find them anymore. Humph! Yao Si snorted coldly, turned around, and flew back to his original location with an indifferent look. Although Yang Kai irritated him earlier, the situation was inconvenient for him to intervene, so Yao Si just ignored him. Qi Gui looked at the direction in which Yang Kai disappeared and faintly smiled. That little brat found himself a good excuse. The brawny young man nodded. I'm afraid that person is his helper, and they put on this play together in order to get him out of this place. Wu Chong remained silent, but he felt the same way too, regardless of Yang Kai's unyielding attitude just now. As if he did not put anyone in his eyes, he was still a Dao Source Realm cultivator. There was definitely no way for him to stay alive if Yao Si targeted him. The situation now favored Yang Kai, fleeing while fighting with his so-called big cousin. Even Yao Si with an extraordinary identity could do nothing about him. Yang Kai was just so scheming, the others could not help but look down on him. Soon, the 5 Emperor Realm Masters dispersed back to their places, and they felt strange that they did not experience a drastic reduction in source strength anymore in the next few days. This convinced them even more that Yang Kai was the culprit behind the previous anomaly. 2 people stood on a shattered star in the sky a few tens of thousands of kilometers away from the source sea, staring at one another. One of them had a burly and sturdy figure, eyes scorching like a hungry wolf that had found its prey. The other stood stoically, his clothes flapping in the wind, eyes shining bright like stars. They were Wu Mengchuan and Yang Kai. They retreated all the way from the source sea without having to exchange a word of explanation and arrived together on this uninhabited star. I did not expect you to cultivate until the 3rd Order Dao Source Realm in such a short time. Wu Mengchuan looked at Yang Kai in surprise, with a little excitement. The secret art that this king passed on to you is not bad, right? He thought that the reason Yang Kai was able to possess this kind of cultivation in such a short time was due to the contribution of the heaven-devouring battle law, as it was a heaven-defying secret art. As long as he could withstand the backlash of this secret art, strengthening his cultivation would be an extremely easy task. It's all because this young master is talented and intelligent. It has nothing to do with your half-assed secret art. Yang Kai curled his lip. Wu Mengchuan chuckled. Is this how you talk to this king who was your sect master and saved your life before? Yang Kai replied with a darkened face. If I'm not mistaken, it was this young master who saved you first. Wu Mengchuan questioned again. Even if it was, this king still passed on a secret art to you. Do you want to deny it? Yang Kai rebuked after hearing it. You want to bring that up? I do have a few questions about your damn secret art. What? Wu Mengchuan raised his brows. The secret art that you passed on to me, is it incomplete? Wu Mengchuan's eyes lit up instantly, and he bellowed with a shortness of breath. You really cultivated the secret art? He looked like a pervert who saw a naked woman, his eyes gleaming, causing Yang Kai to get goosebumps all over his body. Yang Kai reprimanded impatiently. It's none of your business whether or not I cultivated it. Wu Mengchuan faintly smiled. If you didn't cultivate it, how could you find out this problem? Yang Kai was exasperated. So, that secret art is indeed incomplete. You are so wicked. This young master risked grave danger to release you from the bone prison and return your freedom. It's fine that you don't feel grateful about it, but how can you teach me this incomplete secret art? Where is your conscience? Where is the justice? Damn it. This young master could only blame himself for believing a scoundrel like you. He cursed bitterly, beating his own chest and stomping his feet, showing a remorseful face. Wu Mengchuan's face was filled with a cheerful smile. However, as he waited for Yang Kai to finish throwing his fit before saying, "The secret art this king passed on to you is actually a complete secret art." Bullshit. Yang Kai spat at Wu Mengchuan when he continued to deny. Wu Mengchuan dodged this easily and advised him calmly. Little brat, don't be so rude. Didn't your father teach you to respect the old and love the young? Sorry, I was born like this. Yang Kai revealed a stubborn look on his face. Wu Mengchuan snorted. This king doesn't want to argue with you. About the secret art, do you want this king to explain it to you? Speak. Yang Kai looked at him coldly. Wu Mengchuan did not mind his bad attitude and explained indifferently. Back then, Ancestor created an extraordinary secret art, the heaven-devouring battle law, and used it to reach the great emperor realm. He alone dominated the world, and no one was his equal. Unfortunately, destruction pursues the great. The other great emperors feared and envied him, and joined forces to kill him. The heavens must have been jealous of such a talented person and turned a blind eye to his plight. Yang Kai sneered. How come the version I heard was different from what you said? Wu Mengchuan glared at him. Do you still want to listen or not? If not, this king won't talk about it. Yang Kai shrugged his shoulders and made a gesture of zipping his mouth, motioning him to keep going. Wu Mengchuan snorted in annoyance and continued. When Ancestor created the heaven-devouring battle law, he already noticed a huge flaw in it. Can you guess what it is? Yang Kai pointed to his mouth and only made a few muffled sounds but didn't speak. Wu Mengchuan felt helpless and answered himself. Although this secret art is heaven-defying, it slowly corrupts one's mind, body, and soul, resulting in an extremely strong backlash. Only a person with great perseverance can cultivate this secret art and withstand the backlash, otherwise, it would not take long for there to be dissonance in his cultivation and for death to find them. Yang Kai had a sudden realization when he heard it and understood that Wu Mengchuan's words were true. Because the embodiment once mentioned this, but also due to the embodiment's stone puppet body, he was born able to refine and expel various impurities, so the downsides of the heaven-devouring battle law did not have any impact on him. Besides, when the secret art is cultivated to a certain limit, there will be a bottleneck. Without breaking through this bottleneck, you will never be able to advance further. Wu Mengchuan's face turned solemn at this point, looking at Yang Kai intently. And this bottleneck is the third-order Dao source realm, which is why you and I cannot break through to the Emperor realm. Yang Kai knew that it was not the heaven-devouring battle law that hindered his breakthrough, but he was still interested in listening because he felt that Wu Mengchuan was going to tell him the solution to this problem next. This guy seemed to feel that he had gotten Yang Kai in his hand, so now he was a little chatty and revealed everything to him. Indeed, Wu Mengchuan carried on. In order to solve this problem, Ancestor came up with an ingenious solution involving another person cultivating the heaven-devouring battle law. When this person cultivated to the bottleneck of the third-order Dao source realm, one just needed to devour him and use the combined essence to break through the bottleneck in one swoop, arriving at the Emperor realm. His tone gradually became excited, his face turning ruddy as he exclaimed, Ancestor is truly an unparalleled genius. I could never be as good as him. Yang Kai responded with a shocked look. So, the ultimate goal of you passing on the heaven-devouring battle law to me was to devour me? Wu Mengchuan grinned and snarled with his white fangs. Of course, why else do you think this king, as the descendant of the strongest great emperor, would easily give out his secret art? Despicable! Shameless! Yang Kai rebuked. Wu Mengchuan snorted coldly. You are not the only person who has obtained this secret art from this king. Over the past few hundred years, this king discovered over 100 gifted cultivators and passed them the heaven-devouring battle law. But the only one who cultivated until the third-order Dao source realm is you. As for the others, they all died. He paused for a while, then continued. The secret art that this king passed on to you is not incomplete, but it is a copy. A copy? Yang Kai frowned. Yes, the heaven-devouring battle law that was created by Ancestor is divided into two types, original and copy. This king cultivated the original secret art, while the one that passed on to you is just a copy. You've played quite the elaborate game. Yang Kai was slightly shocked. He did not expect Wu Mengchuan to pass the heaven-devouring battle law to many people, and for all those who cultivated it to have been killed by the backlash. After all, not everyone had a body like the embodiment. Yang Kai rejoiced secretly that he had resisted the temptation to cultivate the heaven-devouring battle law back then. Otherwise, he would not even have known how he had died. Although he had a great deal of perseverance, the heaven-devouring battle law was too overbearing. It seemed that Wu Mengchuan did not manage to reach the third-order Dao source realm cultivation by just being strong in perseverance. Perhaps the heaven-devouring great emperor passed down some cultivation experience for him to use as reference. It is nothing to wait for a few hundred years if I could revive the glory of Ancestor. Wu Mengchuan shook his body and shouted loudly. With an ugly face, Yang Kai pressed on. I want to ask, what is the difference between the original secret art and the copy? Hehe, basically the two are the same, but naturally there are some slight differences. The cultivator who cultivates the copy is just a seed. Once he reaches the top of the third-order Dao source realm, the seed is mature and can be consumed by the cultivator of the original technique. If the seed is swallowed, then you can break through to the emperor realm. Moreover, if the seed matures, the person who cultivates the original can sense it from a far distance. Wu Mengchuan explained in gradual excitement. No wonder you could find me in the Shattered Star Sea. You were able to detect me all along, Yang Kai remarked. He had released the embodiment earlier in the Source Sea, so Wu Mengchuan must have sensed his presence at that time. Wu Mengchuan raised his arms and wailed. This king has waited for hundreds of years for this day, and the day has finally come. Yang Kai nodded. He had obtained answers to all his doubts. The reason why the embodiment had reached a bottleneck and was unable to break through turned out to be because of the secret art. Not because it was incomplete, but because it was meant to be like that. Yang Kai pondered for a moment before asking, what if the person who has cultivated the copy swallows the person who has cultivated the original? Wu Mengchuan was taken aback by Yang Kai's question, but soon understood what Yang Kai meant and grinned meaningfully. Young people are indeed very ambitious, very good, very good. With your aptitude, if you did not cultivate that secret art, you would surely have reached a grand stage in the future. It's a pity. Now you're just a stepping stone for this king's promotion. You haven't answered my question. Yang Kai looked at him with a darkened face. Wu Mengchuan answered, if you can really swallow this king, naturally you would break through. What is there to ask about? I see. Yang Kai nodded with satisfaction. That would be for the best. Little brat. What else do you want to ask? Wu Mengchuan snarled. Ask now, as it is your last chance. This king is quite impatient and can barely restrain himself. I have no more questions. Yang Kai grinned at him. His sly smile startled Wu Mengchuan, who gritted his teeth and barked, trying to be all mysterious. While talking, Source Qi suddenly surged and he prepared to attack Yang Kai. Wait! Yang Kai suddenly raised his hand. What else? Wu Mengchuan complained impatiently. Yang Kai smiled at him weirdly and asked, why didn't you ask why can't you sense the mature seed now? Flabbergasted, Wu Mengchuan had completely forgotten the odd phenomenon he had noticed earlier when Yang Kai distracted him with a string of questions, and only remembered when Yang Kai reminded him. He queried hastily, why? Hehe? Yang Kai grinned, spreading his hands and revealing. Because this young master never cultivated the heaven-devouring battle law. What? Wu Mengchuan was dumbfounded. Didn't cultivate it? Impossible. If Yang Kai did not cultivate the heaven-devouring battle law, how did he reach the third-order Dao source realm in such a short period of time? By his looks and aura, Yang Kai seemed to have broken through quite some time ago and had an extremely solid foundation. If Yang Kai did not cultivate the heaven-devouring battle law, how could the indication of the seed he had sensed earlier be explained? He obviously traveled so far after sensing that fluctuation and encountered Yang Kai because of that. Yang Kai added in a low voice, "The one who cultivated the heaven-devouring battle law was someone else." "Who?" Wu Mengchuan's eyes narrowed. Yang Kai waved his hand, and a behemoth suddenly materialized. The huge figure obscured all the light from the sky, casting a shadow that covered a large area on the ground which shook slightly when it landed. Wu Mengchuan's jaw dropped as he looked up at the hill-like existence, feeling a wave of suffocating pressure, making it difficult for him to even breathe smoothly. The signal the seed emitted that had disappeared earlier reappeared when this hill-like existence materialized. This time, Wu Mengchuan clearly felt that the fluctuation was not from Yang Kai, but from the monster in front of him. Taking a closer look, Wu Mengchuan could not help drawing a deep breath. The huge monster had 4 limbs, a face, and was covered in thick rock armor. It looked like a huge stone man. However, this stone man had a pair of shrewd eyes that were constantly darting around, as well as a black war hammer held in its hand which exuded an extremely uncomfortable aura. A demonic artifact. Wu Mengchuan's eyes widened, ogling the war hammer blankly in shock. He could not believe his eyes. This was a demonic artifact, a real demonic artifact. Did demonic artifacts still exist in the world today? Shouldn't such things have been destroyed eons ago? Hadn't the ancient demons gone extinct? Did you hear what this guy said just now? Yang Kai pointed to Wu Mengchuan and asked. The embodiment waved the demonic war hammer in his hand and said in a booming voice, "I heard it clearly. Devour him, and you will be able to break through the bottleneck." Yang Kai laughed lightly. The embodiment chortled with him. "I can't wait." As he spoke, he took a step forward. Hong long long. The ground boomed when the embodiment stomped, leaving a gigantic footprint on the solid ground. What the hell is this? Wu Mengchuan finally recovered from his befuddlement and could not help exclaiming, "Where did you obtain this thing from?" Such a huge monster couldn't be taken out of a space ring. But Wu Mengchuan only saw it emerge after Yang Kai waved his arm. It was also hard to tell if this thing was a living creature. It could talk and communicate like a living thing, but it did not exude any signs of vitality. Having lived for so many years, Wu Mengchuan never expected that he could still be so surprised. "You don't need to worry about where I got it from, you just need to die obediently. If you don't resist, I can still give you a painless death. But if you resist..." Heh. Yang Kai stood aside and sneered. "You're asking this king to die?" Wu Mengchuan's eyes turned perverse as he barked. "Little brat, you don't seem to know the situation you're in. How dare anyone be presumptuous in front of this king?" He suddenly motioned his hand at the embodiment and growled, "Heaven-devouring battle law, devour it for me." A magical power spread out all of a sudden, covering the embodiment as if it was trying to swallow him whole. The huge body of the embodiment staggered and fell to his knees all of a sudden. Pain spread across his face as he let out a loud wail. Yang Kai's face changed drastically, and he whispered, "What's going on?" He knew exactly how strong the embodiment was. The Stone Puppet Clan was born with immense innate strength, and over the years, the embodiment had refined countless treasures and ores, and now even possessed the demonic war hammer. He could even compete against an ordinary Emperor Realm Master. If it was not because he was too large and it was inconvenient for him to move around, Yang Kai would not have kept him hidden so often. Yang Kai was flabbergasted that his powerful embodiment was brought to his knees by Wu Mengchuan in just the blink of an eye, powerless to fight back. Is this old thing really so strong? Yang Kai was dumbfounded. "I'm dying, I'm dying, I'm dying." The embodiment wailed and moaned in pain. My power is being drained. Ha 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 ha. Wu Mengchuan laughed frantically with frenzied eyes as he roared madly. How dare you be arrogant in front of this king? Watch this king devour you completely. Visible to the naked eye, a stream of pure energy was pulled from the embodiment into Wu Mengchuan, who turned ruddy from head to toe, as if he had received immense nourishment. It's the suppression from the secret art. Yang Kai's face sank when realization dawned on him. He immediately sent the embodiment back into the sealed world bead with another wave of his hand, not daring to let him out anymore. Wu Mengchuan looked around when the source of power that he was happily devouring suddenly disappeared, together with the gigantic embodiment who vanished without a trace. His face suddenly darkened and he gritted his teeth. Where did that thing go? Release it quickly, or else this king will make you beg for death. Yang Kai looked at him coldly and snapped. You sly old dog. Is there a natural suppression between the original and the copy of the secret art? Wu Mengchuan answered with a sullen face. So what if there is? Yang Kai snorted. If so, no matter how strong the cultivator that cultivates the copy becomes, he is just a meal waiting to be consumed by you. Little brat, you're too long-winded. Let the thing out quickly. After this king breaks through to the emperor realm, this king could give you a hand or two in the future. Wu Mengchuan bellowed impatiently. The opportunity to reach the emperor realm was right in front of him. Yet Yang Kai had taken it away. How could Wu Mengchuan not be anxious? He did not even know how Yang Kai hid that thing away. If he had known, he would not have wasted time negotiating with Yang Kai and attacked him right away. Yang Kai snorted. How inhumane was heaven-devouring great emperor! He slaughtered millions of souls, swallowed countless stars, collapsed whole star fields, angered the heavens and everyone who lived below them, and was finally killed by several great emperors. Wu Mengchuan, so what if you can break through to the emperor realm? You'll just be following in the footsteps of your ancestor. Nonsense! Wu Mengchuan's eyes went bloodshot as he shouted angrily. The great emperors were narrow-minded people, jealous of the strength ancestor possessed, and set up a trap for him, but unfortunately, they still lost their gamble. How could a person as strong as my ancestor die so easily? As he finished these words, Wu Mengchuan suddenly shut his mouth, his initial excitement seemingly having died down. Yang Kai looked at him in surprise, his eyes almost popping out from their sockets as he asked in a trembling voice, What did you say? Did you just say that senior is not dead yet? Wu Mengchuan realized that he accidentally leaked a secret he shouldn't have due to his overexcitement, and he now stared at Yang Kai coldly with murderous intent. A chill suddenly crept from the soles of the feet to the top of his head, causing Yang Kai to shiver. Heaven-devouring great emperor was a legend, but that legend was killed by the other great emperors in the shattered star sea tens of thousands of years ago. His very soul exterminated, yet now Wu Mengchuan had revealed an unbelievable truth. Yang Kai may not have taken this information seriously if it was from someone else, but Wu Mengchuan was the descendant of heaven-devouring great emperor, so what he said must have had a basis. If heaven-devouring great emperor was not dead, it would truly be pandemonium. What's more, after several tens of thousands of years of dormancy and forbearance, what had heaven-devouring great emperor been doing? And what was he planning to do next? Yang Kai gulped hard. You possessed great potential, so this king did not want to kill you, but now it seems that you must die. Wu Mengchuan bellowed in a deep voice, clenched his fist and threw a punch towards Yang Kai. The punch seemed to crush space as it flew forward, carrying with it seemingly infinite power. His eagerness to kill Yang Kai to keep his mouth shut made the latter feel even more uneasy, wondering if his guess was correct. Yang Kai could not help being shocked by Wu Mengchuan's actions. This madman's strength was far greater than what an ordinary Dao Source Realm cultivator should be able to display. It could even be said that he had exceeded the Dao Source Realm entirely. Even those outstanding rising stars like Wu Chang and Xianxia may not necessarily have such impressive capability like Wu Mengchuan. The descendant of heaven-devouring great emperor was no joke. Although he had been cultivating in anonymity all by himself all these years, he did not seem to be worse than other top elites. However, even though Wu Mengchuan was outstanding, Yang Kai was not weak. He did not dodge the punch, but returned one of his own instead. Hong long long. There was a loud explosion and chaotic energy flew everywhere between the two, colliding with each other. Wu Mengchuan was taken aback, for he did not expect Yang Kai to be so strong. He knew his own strength. Ordinary Dao Source Realm cultivators were no match to him, otherwise, it would have been impossible for him to kill so many cultivators in the Shattered Star Sea, robbing their star seals in order to upgrade his own to a 7-pointed one. But because of this, Wu Mengchuan's eyes lit up and he bellowed, "Young man, what kind of opportunities have you had these past few years? It really amazes this king that you could progress to this level so quickly from the Origin King realm." He did not know what kind of adventures Yang Kai had been through, but it was certain he was blessed with enormous fortuitous encounters to have such rapid growth and great strength. However, no matter what opportunities Yang Kai had, as long as he killed him, it would all belong to him. As Wu Mengchuan spoke, he rushed to Yang Kai's face and rained down punches on him. Despite his apparent madness, his eyes still showed a hint of clarity. Yang Kai looked solemn as he silently pushed his 5 elements indestructible sword qi, surrounding himself with the force of 5 elements, while he confronted Wu Mengchuan dauntlessly. Previously, on the Source Sea, their battle was just for show and both of them did not use their full strength. So neither of them knew the other's limits yet. But now, neither side was holding back. This was a true life or death battle. In an instant, the two exchanged hundreds of punches and kicks, resulting in a chain of rumblings. Yang Kai was undoubtedly superior to Wu Mengchuan in terms of physique. Furthermore, with the addition of his 5 elements indestructible sword qi, which was a profound body-tempering secret art, Wu Mengchuan instantly fell into a disadvantage in this hand-to-hand matchup, and was constantly being beaten back by Yang Kai in humiliation. Wu Mengchuan was startled as he realized that he had greatly underestimated Yang Kai's ability. In the span of not more than 30 breaths of time, Wu Mengchuan already had blood splattered all over his body, looking dreadfully pitiful. But his eyes were still extremely bright. Yang Kai faintly noticed something wrong, because if it was someone else who was beaten up by him like this, their aura would have weakened significantly. However, Wu Mengchuan did not show any signs of his aura fading. Instead, his momentum only seemed to be increasing. In contrast, Yang Kai's own aura had decreased. As realization dawned, Yang Kai squinted his eyes and growled in a low voice, "Old dog, how dare you devour my strength?" Under his careful observation, Yang Kai finally discovered some clues. He found that a part of the strength he used every time to hit Wu Mengchuan would strangely disappear, and this part of his power was obviously being swallowed and absorbed by Wu Mengchuan. Wu Mengchuan burst into laughter. This king has cultivated the heaven-devouring battle law, so no one is his equal. Unless you can kill this king in one hit, just wait to die obediently. Killing Wu Mengchuan in one hit was absolutely impossible even for an ordinary First-Order Emperor Realm Master. Only a powerhouse at the Second-Order Emperor Realm would be capable of this. Yang Kai sensed that the situation was not favoring him, and he hurriedly pulled back. But Wu Mengchuan roared violently, "You can't just come and go in front of this king. Heaven-devouring domain. Open up for me." Hong. A formless domain expanded in a loud crash, directly wrapping Yang Kai in it. In this domain, Yang Kai found that the power in his body was uncontrollably leaking out of his pores and flowing towards Wu Mengchuan. Not only that, his vitality also showed signs of being devoured. The rate at which this drain was occurring also seemed to be getting faster and faster. Yang Kai turned pale with fright as he learned the true terror of the heaven-devouring battle law. Although the embodiment also cultivated this heaven-defying secret art, his capabilities were naturally far weaker compared to Wu Mengchuan's. Therefore, he could not summon such a domain that was able to devour the strength of everything and everyone trapped within it. Everything in this domain became a source of power for Wu Mengchuan, and it was inevitable to be devoured by him. If someone fought with him in this domain, the loss of their strength would turn into a gain for Wu Mengchuan. Wu Mengchuan would easily win the battle and eventually kill his opponent as long as he survived. Yang Kai was stuck in this awkward situation now. What rich vitality! What pure source qi! Wu Mengchuan's eyes gleamed. While fighting with Yang Kai at full tilt, he shouted in amazement, Little brat, you tempered your body to such an extent. Good, good, good. Now when this king breaks through to the emperor realm, he will also have an amazing supplement like you. Yang Kai snorted. Do you really want to devour me so much? Be careful not to choke to death. Saying so, he pushed the local space principles, causing the surrounding space to become fragile and unstable. Wu Mengchuan's eyes widened in surprise. This is space principles. He seemed to be seeing a ghost in broad daylight, and could not feel any more shocked. But the next moment, he was overjoyed. You are actually proficient in the Tao of space as well? Seeing this situation, Yang Kai's heart sank as he secretly wondered if this guy could. Before he could finish his thought, Yang Kai sensed something was wrong and was terrified. Bastard! You can even devour principal strength? A look of ecstasy was revealed on the face of Wu Mengchuan as he spread his arms wide and allowed his mind and body to freely devour everything around him, all while loudly praising, "Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful." Space principles turn out to be so mysterious. No wonder not many people can cultivate them. By devouring Yang Kai's space principles, Wu Mengchuan was comprehending the mysteries of the Tao of space. If it continued for a long time like this and he was able to comprehend these mysteries, Wu Mengchuan would certainly be able to cultivate the Tao of space and obtain all of Yang Kai's space divine abilities. Yang Kai truly realized the terror of the heaven-devouring battle law now. This secret art was indeed a marvelous ability. There was nothing it could not devour. No matter how incredible principal strength was, once it was used by others, the heaven-devouring battle law cultivator could comprehend it by devouring it, then cultivating it as his own. This was blatant robbery, and the victim could not do anything about it. No wonder during the War of Emperors in the Shattered Star Sea in the past, heaven-devouring Great Emperor was able to take 4 top masters with him to the afterlife. With the heaven-devouring battle law being so heaven-defying, no one in this world could be his opponent. This was simply cheating. This king is a little reluctant to kill you now. Wu Mengchuan looked at Yang Kai in euphoria and shouted, "Little brat, this king is going to give you another chance. Stop resisting, open your knowledge sea, and allow this king to brand his soul imprint onto it. When this king rules the star boundary in the future and revives the glory of his ancestor, this king will allow you to reign over the world too. What do you think? Is there such a good offer?" Yang Kai stared at him with his teeth gritted, waving his hands as he sent out 2 gigantic moon blades towards Wu Mengchuan. Wu Mengchuan's eyes brightened up again, fixing his eyes on the moon blades, as if he had seen something novel. He rapidly turned to avoid them when the moon blades almost slashed him and licked his lips while revealing an avaricious look. This king really likes your space principles. As long as you can assist this king to cultivate and comprehend the Tao of space, this king will not treat you badly. Good. I will give you whatever you want. But I need one thing from you first. Yang Kai sneered. Wu Mengchuan responded with a sullen face. If it's this king's life, we are done with the conversation. Yang Kai replied, You're quite smart. Are your parents proud of you? Wu Mengchuan reprimanded. My parents are long dead. This has nothing to do with them. Flame. While Wu Mengchuan yelled in anger, he waved his hand and a ball of flames instantly condensed and charged towards Yang Kai. This flame contained pure fire principles and seemed capable of burning everything in existence. Yang Kai grimaced seeing this as he knew that the fire principles contained in this attack were not cultivated and comprehended by Wu Mengchuan himself, but should be the principal strength of others who he devoured through the heaven-devouring battle law. Even so, this divine ability could not be underestimated. Exile. Yang Kai stretched his hand out and opened a black hole before him, using it to directly engulf the fireball. You never learn. Wu Mengchuan's face turned red as his hands suddenly spread out, releasing 2 completely different waves of principles. The left hand burned with fire, the right hand froze with ice. The principles of fire and ice were unleashed together. Surprisingly, they did not cancel each other out, but instead perfectly merged into one as Wu Mengchuan roared, Have a taste of the original creation of this king, 9 heavens ice fire. Pa! He clapped his hands together in front of him, and in an instant, The power of fire and ice burst out violently, rolling up the void and crumbling the world around him. The violent power rolled over, and Xianxia, the first to be affected, was swamped in it all of a sudden. Hong long long. The nine heavens ice fire rioted for a time before it gradually dissipated and dispersed. Wu Mengchuan stood his ground, staring ahead, dignified. When the dust settled, Xianxia stood in the void, his clothes tattered. Although he was disheveled, he was still very much alive and now wore a somber expression as he formed a set of profound hand seals. A mysterious aura permeated the air around him. Wu Mengchuan suddenly felt extremely uneasy. His heart jumped, and for some reason, he had a feeling that time around him was slowing down, like his own perception was suppressed and everything around him was growing stagnant. Only Xianxia's movements remained as fast as lightning. Xianxia quickly finished his set of complex hand seals and pushed his palms forward, growling in a low voice, "Time flies!" Wu Mengchuan was appalled, instinctively aware of the dangers of the incoming attack. But he could not avoid it at all. Even his thoughts seemed to be frozen at this moment. Even the heaven-devouring battle law failed to be of any help. A strange seal quickly shot towards Wu Mengchuan. At the critical moment, Wu Mengchuan bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood essence, flipping his wrist and summoning a blood-red bottle. This bottle was not big, only about a forearm's length, but it exuded a very rich bloody aura. Suddenly, a scarlet light as strong and thick as a physical substance was emitted from the bottle. The air was filled with a pungent blood stench that turned into a bright red light that shrouded anything in front of it. The void was swiftly filled with what seemed to be a sea of blood. Hong hong hong. The time flies seal crashed into the blood sea, setting off a huge shockwave. The blood sea rolled and tumbled, and Wu Mengchuan groaned once more, stumbling as he was forced to retreat. Although he summoned this peculiar artifact in time, his face still began rapidly aging as he was still affected by the divine ability of the flowing time great emperor. It seemed that he was quite badly injured at this moment, but his expression remained calm contrary to his previous panic. He snarled at Xianxia in a low voice, "I didn't expect you to have such a divine ability." Xianxia looked around with a frown. It had only been a span of 3 breaths since Wu Mengchuan summoned the blood-red bottle, but the surrounding environment had changed drastically. The surrounding area was filled with a strong smell of blood arising from the bubbling blood sea below that vaguely emitted faint cries and howls. The surrounding space seemed to be isolated by the blood sea, and even though Xianxia was proficient in the Tao of space, he could not sense any connection with the area outside of the blood sea. It seemed that this place was converted into an isolated space, similar to the sealed world bead, completely cut off from the outside. What the hell is that? Xianxia was puzzled. The only thing he was certain of was that the blood-red bottle was a powerful emperor artifact. It was very likely that it was an emperor artifact passed down from heaven-devouring great emperor. After all, Wu Mengchuan was not an emperor yet, so it was next to impossible for him to request someone else to refine an emperor artifact for him. Xianxia frowned deeply. If this was really an emperor artifact that belonged to heaven-devouring great emperor, things would be quite troublesome. Little brat, just what divine ability is this? It's completely different from your space principles earlier. Wu Mengchuan hollered again. Xianxia glanced at him coldly and snorted. Why would a dying person ask so many questions? Wu Mengchuan was taken aback before he immediately cackled. You are truly bold. You should be proud that you were able to force this king to use the blood spirit bottle. Blood spirit bottle? Xianxia raised his brow, learning the name of this emperor artifact. Indeed, Wu Mengchuan imparted triumphantly. This is the emperor artifact I inherited from my great ancestor. Only descendants with the Wu family bloodline can use it. Others would not be able to operate it. Although the blood spirit bottle is not the pinnacle of my great ancestor's creations, it is more than enough to handle you. This thing really is an emperor artifact passed down by heaven-devouring great emperor to his descendants. Xianxia was baffled. Wu Mengchuan continued, Don't even think of escaping in this king's blood spirit bottle, even if you are proficient in the Tao of space. Today you will either submit to this king or die here. Xianxia sneered. You should take care of yourself first. Having taken this young master's divine ability, how long can you live? Although Yangkai failed to achieve the desired effect with his timefly seal, Wu Mengchuan was still injured by it, his aging face the best proof of that. What's more, the flowing time force that invaded his body would not be easily dispersed. The flowing time force would continue to consume Wu Mengchuan's vitality, and he would eventually die of old age. A trivial secret technique. What can it do to me? Wu Mengchuan snorted coldly and stretched out his hand to make a move. The bloody water below him streamed towards him like 1,000 rivers flowing back to the sea, and with the influx of bloody water, Wu Mengchuan's old face quickly regained its brilliance, and it seemed that it was no longer corroded by the flow of time. But Yangkai did not miss the frown which formed on Wu Mengchuan's face or the look of shock that soon followed, because his restored face was quickly aging again. What kind of power is this? Wu Mengchuan was finally triggered and he asked in shock. His method of using blood to restore his vitality actually only worked temporarily rather than permanently. Unless he kept absorbing the blood from this place, he would soon die. After realizing this, Wu Mengchuan was terrified. Yangkai laughed loudly. Can't you devour everything? Just try devouring it yourself and you'll know. He chimed sarcastically. Little brat, you court death. I had wanted to keep your life for my use, but now it seems that I must kill you. Wu Mengchuan was furious and waved his hands madly. The blood sea suddenly ferociously rioted, and a giant blood dragon emerged from its surface. The blood dragon looked as vivid as an actual dragon, and stared around with its house-sized eyes. It snapped its jaws and swung its claws as it threw itself at Yangkai. To Wu Mengchuan's surprise, Yangkai just stood still and sneered gently at the ferocious attack. What the hell is he up to now? Wu Mengchuan worried in his heart, unsure of what Yangkai was planning. To avoid accidents, he struck again, condensing several more blood dragons from the blood sea, surrounding Yangkai in all directions. Yangkai snorted, Wu Mengchuan, your strength is also beyond this young master's expectations. You should be proud you were able to force me to use this treasure. He actually returned Wu Mengchuan's words from earlier. Unable to contain his anger, Wu Mengchuan raged. How dare a little brat like you be so arrogant? Within this king's blood spirit bottle's blood sea, what other tricks do you have? Just die. It's you who is going to die. Yangkai responded sharply. When the words fell, he stretched out his hand, summoning the mountains and rivers bell, and pouring his source chi and spiritual energy into it madly. The mountains and rivers bell grew rapidly. The magnificent drawings and runes on its surface came to life as it began releasing an ancient and desolate aura. This is... Wu Mengchuan's eyes widened suddenly, staring at the mountains and rivers bell in amazement, almost biting his tongue off in shock. As a descendant of the heaven-devouring great emperor, he was naturally more aware of everything in the past and present that happened in the Shattered Star Sea than others. He knew every great emperor that had fallen here and what kind of treasures they left behind. Therefore, he immediately recognized the mountains and rivers bell. That's impossible, Wu Mengchuan exclaimed. No matter what, he could not believe that Yangkai actually conquered the mountains and rivers bell. This was the natal emperor artifact of the Yuanding Great Emperor. It was a primitive relic brought out by the Yuanding Great Emperor from the ancient wildlands. But hadn't the mountains and rivers bell escaped into the void to suppress the phoenix true fire? Why was it in Yangkai's hands? If the mountains and rivers bell was here, then where was the phoenix true fire? If this was truly the mountains and rivers bell, Wu Mengchuan was in grave danger. Dong! With a melodious chime of a bell, a shock wave visible to the naked eye spread out in all directions. The sound wave was seemingly mixed with a heaven-destroying and earth-shattering power that had an almost irresistible suppressive power to it. The blood dragons that rushed to attack Yangkai fell apart in an instant and splashed into pools of blood once more. Wu Mengchuan trembled as he could not help retreating several steps back, blood now oozing out of his ears and nose as he stumbled. This was the true mountains and rivers bell. Everything turned white within Wu Mengchuan's vision, his head buzzing wildly as his mind was blinded by the shock. Having personally endured the impact of the mountains and rivers bell, he no longer doubted. Wu Mengchuan stiffened even more at the presence of the mountains and rivers bell, immobilized in place by an invisible force. Even the bloody water that was bubbling below had suddenly become still without a single ripple. The mountains and rivers bell's toll could suppress worlds and invert the heavens and earth. If there was nothing the heaven-devouring battle law could not devour, then there was nothing the mountains and rivers bell could not suppress. Pooh! Finally, Wu Mengchuan could not withhold any longer and spat a mouthful of blood, his face aging drastically all of a sudden. Yang Kai snorted coldly, "Wu Mengchuan, this place will be your deathbed. Now obediently die for me." He roared and slammed his hand down, sending the mountains and rivers bell plummeting into the blood sea, causing it to vanish. But in the next moment, the entire blood sea bubbled madly, followed by crackling sounds from all directions. Wu Mengchuan was appalled and exclaimed sharply, "Stop! Stop, or you will ruin this king's blood spirit bottle." The local space had been isolated by the blood spirit bottle, integrating with it in a sense, but the mountains and rivers bell was now shattering through the bounds of this space, creating a force that was impossible for the blood spirit bottle to bear. The Emperor artifact passed down by the heaven-devouring Great Emperor would surely be damaged greatly if the suppressive pressure continued much longer. Yang Kai sneered, "Still worrying about the bottle when you're about to lose your life?" Yang Kai would not have chosen to act this way if the blood spirit bottle could be of use for him. After all, it was a treasure passed down by the heaven-devouring Great Emperor, so its value was surely immeasurable. However, since Wu Mengchuan explained that only the descendants with the Wu family bloodline could control it, it was useless even if Yang Kai captured it. Therefore, he showed no mercy. A more intense sound shook the ground. Wu Mengchuan paled and shouted, "Stop! I have something to say." Yang Kai replied coldly, "I'm not listening to a single word you have to say." Voila! The world that was enveloped by the blood sea broke with a loud crack, and the constrictive power that sealed the surroundings disappeared in an instant.